Israel. Wonder is it real? Rappers acting say they high, say they sip with pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up, had to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in the field. That's for Israel. Wonder is it real? Took the way you saw the world, then distorted it. Now you think you wanna rock that twirl somewhere orbiting. Theories disproportionate, the truth distorted quick with a forceful grip. They force a misinfo that we absorbing quick. Took the people's signature, that mean extorted it. They forging it, if news ain't good informant to informing them. There's a surplus, but they tell us there are shortages. Credit economy mortgages, dollar that's supported with empty fortresses. But what's important is this, we port and ships important gifts. Of course it is, what extortion is in accordance with an assortment list of foreign tricks. We ignoring which informant this, informant this. It looked like we were snoring tricked. Pedophilia and the government endorsing it. Yeah, eugenics is exactly what abortion is. You just vilify those insubordinate. Way to matrix engineer, that's unfortunate. Geopolitically, we in a field. That's for Israel. Wonder is it real? Rappers actors say they high, say they sip with pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up just to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in the field. That's for Israel. Wonder is it real?
In a world. All right. We had a bit of technical difficulties, but we are back. Let me know if the mic sounds good. All right. So we are going to review the debate between Jeran and myself. The long-awaited debate. For those that don't know, of course, Jeran, that's Jeran from Jeranism, flat earther for I think close to 10 years. We did Globebusters together. We ran the summits together. We were like partners in that sense. And we went to Antarctica in December of last year. It was a whole thing. Lots of negotiations to try to ensure they couldn't use our audio or video without our permission. Contracts back and forth. I ended up writing the final contract myself. Jeran and I went over it many times, thought of everything we could think of, asked everyone in the community if you have any suggestions so we don't overlook anything. We thought of every conceivable situation that they could try to make us get vaccinated, you name it, and added it to the contract. In hindsight, all of that effort to ensure that they would not be able to later make a documentary and try to paint the flat earthers as stupid or make some type of hit piece is somewhat futile, seeing as how Jeran, as a result of that trip, flipped over to believing that the earth is in fact a globe. And so they have exactly what they want. Their kind of main character of a flat earther going down and finding out he was wrong. So, of course, they can't use me without my permission, or really they can't use Jeran without his permission, but one may assume he doesn't have too many reasons not to give them full permission. I've actually tried to talk to Jeran about that, but as you can see, if we don't stand as kind of a unified front in that regard, then I don't really have much leverage. So anyway, all that aside, therefore everyone wanted me to debate him. Jeran came back and, to quickly cover it, right? Everyone acted like everyone just freaked out about the trip. Before we even got back, we were both just like fed up with it, right? People were claiming that we were faking it, that we were in a studio, that we recorded this at a different time, that we were lying, making all kinds of requests in the chats to verify that we were there. And mind you, we actually did something that's never been done before. We went to Antarctica in 2024 and we live streamed from there multiple times. Before the trip, we didn't think we'd even have internet for sure. We definitely thought it was unlikely we'd have like a stable enough internet to consistently live stream with any quality. We get there and they have Starlink set up at the camp. We go a little off site so that we can be up 24 hours, no quiet hours or whatever. We kind of have privacy, and we set up a Starlink, and sure enough, we have internet and we're able to stream. And of course, what the first thing that they did was try to set up a stream to Candace Owens' Rumble to stream the 24-hour sun, 24 straight hours. The phone and stream ended up crashing. I don't remember how many hours in, but that soon became the story. Oh, we didn't even get the 24-hour live stream. That was never even like an objective that we never even thought we were going to be able to do that. Right. The objective was to go with people that were supposed to be trusted to verify, is the sun actually there? And does it stay in the sky and do a circle around you for 24 hours as it does in the north? So anyway, we did do that. Mission was accomplished. We got video. We got over 30 straight hours of HD 360 interactive video. We got what effectively amounts to a time lapse of solar filter shots, etc. So, like I said, everyone was trying to say that it was fake and that we were sellouts and all this crazy stuff. Jeran came back. What I did was I stayed in Discord for hours and hours. I mean, I got back and was only back for a couple days, and then immediately went to Tennessee for the holidays to see family. And even there, I should have checked and made sure audio and everything is good. I'm assuming it's good. I was even stepping away there and jumping in Discord and answering people's questions because there were all these conspiracies and theories that we didn't go. And I did that for hours, for days and days and days. I mean, like I pulled an all-nighter before I went. Didn't sleep basically the whole entire trip. And then came back and was pulling all-nighters, answering people's questions, going through footage with them, basically defending myself as to the question of whether or not I really went somewhere I objectively went, which is a pretty weird situation. So anyway, I will say a lot of people show their true colors, and there was clearly a subsect of flat Earth, which I have been very vocal about how I'm not the biggest fan of that label. Like I will wear it with pride and defend it, but it's clearly used to kind of stereotype and misrepresent the position and dismiss it and shift the burden, right? Where really it's like, okay, we heard this absurd idea that people think that the Earth is flat and not a globe. We're like, we know it's a globe. Everyone knows that. We've seen it our whole lives. Then we went and tested it and found out that the evidence does not stack up to support the globe model that we were all told. So we actually just reject that positive claim. And so not to get too off in the weeds, but, I've kind of always made a point Yeah, we even went the whole, it's true Earth, really. We're trying to figure out what the Earth truly is. I'm not making like a holistic object claim. I think that's goofy. And I think if you had to ask someone 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, to do that, they'd be like, what are you talking about? Have you seen how big? We have no idea what all's here. This place is huge. We can't fully know how big this realm is. But now that people have told us a story, people expect a replacement, whatever. Okay. So we come back, everyone's like attacking us, and I end up stepping away. And so I've actually been away for a while. And there's been a few moments, I mean, it's July. There's been a few moments that I've like, okay, I've decided I'm going to come back, because I was flirting with if I was going to even keep making content, and I would never let something like, I'm not gonna like let them win and let the trip do that or anything. It wasn't really about that. It was just like many factors, right? So anyway, I decided to come back, and then I'd say, okay, I'm about to come back, and then something would happen, and I've had a lot going on behind the scenes, a lot going on in my personal life as well. So it just hasn't aligned. We are, and I know I've said this a few times, so I mean, I would say just let's see what happens. But I could definitely understand skepticism here, but I am officially coming back to streaming super consistently and doing debates again and appearances. So I've already started setting stuff up and reaching out to people and stuff like that. So stay tuned. Shout out to all the people that did keep supporting me and were members. We're launching up a whole bunch of, perks and private communities and all that. So it should be cool. I'll get a couple other housekeeping things out of the way. Actually, I told people, anyone that went to the summit and were VIP, that I would give them a free month to the kind of like health and fasting community that I was launching. And all of those VIP members should check your email over the next day, and you will receive access for a month to the community, which will be super dope. I'll have all kinds of modules and informations and challenges and meetups and private calls and group calls and stuff in terms of detoxing and fasting and different protocols. And it's like a health-oriented community. And it's called Ever Fasting, a play off everlasting, to help, achieve longevity, vitality, and health and stuff like that. I've done tons of research into this recently. I've tested out tons of different things. Really kind of focused on that a lot more until I did like destroy my shoulder, and I wasn't able to work out for a while, and then lost all the gains. But anyway, so there's that. I also have waited about a month, so the people that did pay for it, they got what they paid for. And now you can purchase like a much cheaper replay, so you can get full access to all of the presentations and the entertainment and the music, which was super awesome. Deepak like absolutely crushed the music. It's honestly worth a ticket just to watch his performance. Even freestyles in there about the summit at one point. Anyway, that is available. I mean, you can actually still go to ethericsummit.com/tickets. If you go to get tickets, one of the options is like a much cheaper replay package to watch on demand, etc. Okay. Also, Etheric, I plan on writing kind of like a series of books, and they'll be like smaller little books, and at the end, it'll ultimately be like one book. And all the people that purchase VIP, then they'll get a free ebook, a free copy of the first part of it. But I'm also not going to rush that. And as you guys know, I have my take. For example, that light doesn't actually travel from point A to point B. It's an ether perturbation, right? And so it's just simply a disturbance. And everything's an ether modality. And, static electricity is ether under stress or strain. Magnetism is the hybrid conjugate geometric expression of the dielectric. you guys get it. So I'll break all this down in the book. Give my take. That's the idea of the book, just in case you're wondering, and kind of like the implications of it and how I've discovered that. And I'm about to get into the review. I'm letting people get in here. But last thing I'll say there is like kind of this journey I've been on the last however long. Like I said, I've had lots of stuff going on behind the scenes, and in due time, you guys will know kind of everything that's been going on. And I've learned a lot, and one of those things being that this is like truly an etheric realm. And that's why the summit's so fire. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely consider going and getting the cheaper ticket. It's pretty crazy. And so kind of lying and manipulating and doing people wrong and having unresolved conflicts and stuff like that have like a major impact on you physically. So I'll probably cover some of that as well. Okay, so we're going to get into what the debates or what the show's about. Obviously, to expedite this, everyone was saying you have to debate Jeran. Jeran got back, and then he was being attacked so much, and we were both being slandered a lot. Like I said, I just kind of stepped away at one point after answering tons of questions, even hosting a debate on my channel. I hosted a debate with Dave Weiss moderating, debating if it was faked or not, debating if I went somewhere I went. It was why it's so crazy to watch people act like Austin just didn't answer any questions. I'm like, dude, what? I probably answered the same questions over and over for a combined 50 hours, even hosted a debate on my channel. It was just exhausting, and so much lying and slandering and coping and stuff like that. So I know how Jeran feels, especially because he came back and said it has to be a globe, and obviously he got attacked in another way. So then Jeran went on and kind of got defensive and started attacking people, and I don't agree with how he did that and his approach. And so then everyone was hitting me up saying, you have to debate Jeran. You have to debate Jeran. How are you just going to sit there and let Jeran do it? I'm like, dude, Jeran's his own man, my guy. Okay. I don't know if you guys know, but I'm a big, pretty strong proponent of believing what you want to, saying what you want to, free speech. I'm not a free speech absolutist necessarily, right? You shouldn't be able to sexually objectify children, for example, but I'm damn near a free speech absolutist, and I think everyone should be able to say whatever they want. And I think disagreement is the cornerstone to progression. I am not going to police someone's thoughts. I think that is so lame. People try to do that with me with the ether conversation. You had a bunch of people trying to say, oh, that's pseudoscience. You shouldn't be talking about that. Just talk about how the earth measures flat and trying to like dictate what I say. And it's like, but you don't know me at all, bro. Okay. That is the lamest thing anyone can do. So no, I didn't reach out to Jeran and say anything. When I was with him in person, and I can assure you, as far as I could know, that was a very real experience for him. He thought it was the AE map. Can't conceive of the Earth being a plane if the AE map is incorrect, and kind of realizing that he thought that he was wrong, and he felt like he had to go tell everyone. And obviously, there's a bunch of conspiracies about whether or not he was paid off or he's an actor. I don't think so. I was with him the whole time. I didn't. Anyway, the only thing I did say to him was, I think we should be patient. Like, I definitely don't think that we should like jump to conclusions and start saying things like you should definitely not go say, I actually think it's a globe now. I mean, obviously, if you truly think that and like you're like sure of it, I would actually think it's lame if you weren't honest. Like, if that's what you actually think, you should say it. But I just don't think you should rush and stuff. So other than that, and then me saying, just so you know, dude, I think that you're going about this the wrong way, and you're kind of characterizing everyone and attacking everyone and getting too into the negative, letting a lot of these people drag you down into a very low vibration. And it's like toxic and gay and, all this gossipy drama stuff. But, yeah. Okay. So everyone was just like begging me to debate him. And I will say, look, like, I'm pretty good at debating, like, humbly, people can agree to disagree with that, but people can think I'm wrong about my conclusions. But I mean, clearly I'm we can at least say pretty decent at debating. And I've done it quite a bit. And I, kind of, you know, repetition really showed me how to quickly identify fallacious reasoning and point it out, and kind of like the chess that is within the art of debating. And Jeran, he doesn't do that. So I'm like, this isn't even like, what? Like, you want me to debate Jeran? I just like at this, and Jeran was on the record saying like, people keep asking if I'm gonna debate Witsit. Like, no, I'm not stupid. Like, I disagree with them, but I'm not gonna debate Witsit. I would never debate him. That would be stupid. But sure enough, the way that everything aligned, we end up doing it. Different people had reached out to us. Modern Day Debate had reached out to us. We obviously could have gone to Modern Day Debate, or we could have done it on our channel and got tons of super chats. We didn't do that. And instead, we just did it in kind of like a chill for the OGs that actually went to the summit. And of course, people stole it and posted it, but whatever. And so I wasn't super cutthroat with them or anything, and we're just going to watch it. So obviously, it will end up seemingly be a pretty late stream because it's almost 11 already. So I think some legends might be down to jump on and react to some of it with me, and we're just kind of chill, hang out, watch it, comment, cover some of the stuff that needs to be covered that came up. And how these debates often go, and I'll actually take the L for this, right, is they just kind of go all over the place, and then certain points are never like concluded. Like, you just feel like, dude, we didn't really get into anything, and that wasn't properly addressed, etc. This conversation has so many subcategories. Each one can be a 3-hour debate, each little argument or piece of evidence or point. And Jeran had recently reached out to me with like a very structured format, and I didn't want to do that with him. I was like, I think, nah, I'll just keep it pretty chill, like openers, I mean, maybe in hindsight, we should have done that. Maybe we can do another one that's more structured and subject specific with specific points or whatever. But honestly, just out of respect, I wasn't trying to be super cutthroat. I was also running the entire summit. Shout out to people that were helping me, but I was doing like 5 or 6 things at a time. I literally didn't think about the debate until I had to go start the debate. And simultaneously, I was doing the studio and running all the scenes and switching from scene to scene and stuff. So, all right. Anyway, if you want to support the stream, Ko-fi.com/Witsit, and we will have a couple new things rolling out, different ways to support whole site with, library, different access, different packages. One of them we're going to start doing some in-person stuff, I think. So we got a lot of stuff coming in. I'm obviously having to build all that myself. And so be patient, but I think we're almost ready to launch a lot of that. So, all right, we're going to watch the debate. I haven't fully watched the whole thing or anything. So if you haven't seen it, we'll watch it together. I think a lot of you probably have seen it. And then while we start playing it, kind of listening to it, I'll try to line up, bring on some guests, and we'll kind of get into some of the specifics of the claims and see if we can get to the bottom of it or whatever. All right, cool. Let me see if what you guys are saying over here. Witsit did witness the 24-hour sun. That's correct. Yeah. All right, cool. So yeah, we do have super chats as of now. I know that with some of the guests and some of the stuff I'm going to start talking about, very likely we're going to run into some trouble on YouTube. And I'm going to start planning out my streams like days in advance for each day, and some of the topics that I've decided to cover and coming out of the gate like might get me popped pretty quick. So definitely go follow me on Rumble. Witsit gets it on Rumble, and on X, Witsit gets it on X. All right. We'll periodically check the super chats. Ko-fi.com/Witsit. Also, we're monetized on here. All right, let's see what we got here. Hey, what is up, guys? Sorry for the delay. Everything went wrong for the first time right before this debate. So it should be interesting. We wanted to give you guys a chance to get here. So this is the long-awaited debate that has been requested by everyone 1,000 times. So here we go. All right, it's 2 hours. You guys can let me know, but if you want me to slow it back down, but I'm going to speed it up. We'll start at 1.25. I think I didn't go super hard and slam dunk and talk really fast or anything in this debate, I don't think. So we should be fine. But Jeran and I are going to be debating, is the Earth a globe? So yeah, I'll just go ahead and hand it over to the moderator, which is Sean Griffin from Keenan Context.
Welcome, everyone. This is the infamous debate, is the Earth a globe? Jeran Campanella of Jeranism, Austin Witsit of Witsit Gets It. Austin, do you have the...
Is this a rerun? We're just reviewing and reacting to the debate. I'm going to bring some people on to react with me in a second.
The screen, it shows just you right now.
Well, for them, it shows all three of us.
Okay.
You just can't see.
So welcome, everyone. This is possibly round one of this epic debate going down tonight. Is the Earth a globe?
That's
and
true.
Jeran Campanella is going to be in
a
the
lot of people
position. So he's going to go.
You know, it's funny. I've gotten like really mixed reviews on that. Like lots of people are like, "Oh, you got to get round two," and so much stuff wasn't covered, and you got to be able to hold his feet to the fire. And I know you're holding back because you're a nice guy, but you got to go all in and blah blah blah. And a lot of people are like, "Dude, please don't debate him again, dude." So who knows? We'll see. I'll actually start a poll. I'll start a poll on YouTube. And you guys can tell me if we should debate again. There was a poll in the last one. I think it was yes, but not as overwhelming as you may think.
For the debate will be 10-minute openings, 7-minute rebuttals, followed by 30 minutes of open cross-exam between the two interlocutors. And then we're going to be taking questions from the audience for a 30-minute Q&A. So be sure to hold your questions till about midway through the debate. That way they don't get lost in the abundance of questions flowing in. And Jeran, if you're ready, we can go ahead and hear your opening.
Yep, I'm going to set my timer so I have a little clock here going. And we're good to go. Okay, and we said 10 minutes. Okay, we will add to this one. Good enough. All right, and let me know, can you just tell me when we have like 5 minutes and then 1 minute or something?
Can do.
Thank you much. Are we good?
If you haven't seen this, I think most of you definitely have by now. Like this is the part that if you're going to get triggered, it's going to be here, to be honest.
To go?
Yeah, I'll start the time when you start your speaking.
Oh, good. All right, so thanks everybody for being here. Obviously, thanks for inviting me, Austin. Thanks for moderating, Sean. I know it was last second. Much appreciated. So, and let me begin by saying hello to the former colleagues, friends I have. I wish it was under better circumstances. Unfortunately, as you know, tonight I'm debating somebody I once stood next to in the flat earth community, Austin Witsit. We ran summits, globe busters. We spoke at conferences. We used a microphone and speaker at Venice Beach. We claimed to seek truth, and the same I thought could be said for all of you. Originally, the difference is that I actually meant it. Others did as well. They've escaped the flat earth. We weren't.
I mean, like,
social.
Bro, just from the rip, right? Like all of you, what are you doing, bro? You're just holistically characterizing everyone, bro.
Movement. While I might agree with the ideas of that, those can be done in other ways. We were here for truth and a scientific truth. Once that truth is gone, that's it, game over. So I spent a decade researching, presenting, defending the flat earth model. Why? Well, because I thought it was true. So sadder still, Austin and I both went on a trip in December to do what we both thought was helping the flat earth, and in my mind at least, by showing strong evidence for or against it. When I encountered the real world observations that flat earth can't explain, I didn't ignore it. I tested it. I went down, took action. I went to Antarctica, watched a 24-hour sun with my own eyes, circled for 4 days. It wasn't NASA. It wasn't Dave Weiss's plasma sun that he got from a Microsoft whistleblower. It's not hearsay. It's a real observation, 100% above board, despite what you hear from all the great flat earth researchers. And what did I find? I found a model that predicts and explains and matches reality exactly. And it sure as hell isn't the flat model. I thought people would be adults and we...
Oh, he's reading. I was not even paying attention at all because I was like running the summit. I mean, you guys can let me know, but I can obviously break down the fallacies that are in here. And then when we start to get into some of the arguments, stuff I bring up, I'm going to bring some people on to help kind of show the receipts for that. But I'll go, I mean, obviously, so we have a poisoning the well fallacy. That's when someone tries to preemptively discredit the opponent to the audience, you know, with non-related information. And also ad hom here, right? Where it's challenging like the intention or integrity of the person. And of course you have a genetic fallacy, that this is being strung into, which is basically to dismiss the argument not based on the evidence or merit of the argument, but based on the source, right? And so these all kind of tie together. Ad hom poison the well genetic fallacy is basically like to personally attack someone, preemptively discredit them with personal attacks, and then to say, like, I mean, he's wrong because of all of these things, whatever his argument is, not actually addressing the argument. So if it comes from Witsit, if it comes from a flat earther that do these things, it can't be true, right? And that's going to basically summarize most of this intro. So I went ahead and covered it. You guys can let me know if you actually want me to like point out most of the fallacies, but I'm sure Mindshock will cover this at one point.
Would say we were wrong when the evidence was dropped in our lap. And thanks to Robbie, Paul, Patricia, Austin Thompson, Alex Stein, and the others. And there's still some more people who want to remain unnamed, and still others that maybe.
Why are you wasting your time with these people, Austin? Just let them go. I have pretty much stepped away for like half a year, brother. I wouldn't really say I'm wasting my time with them. I'm coming back. We did this debate. I posted it. People want me to review it. I do. I get your point, though.
Nobody knows their names. So,
and to clarify, I am just going to be moving on, right? Like, I'm going to cover a lot of topics, and I just don't really care what other people got to say.
I'm happy at least that people can admit when they're wrong. But yes, for nearly a decade, I was one of the most vocal proponents of this theory about flat Earth, and it's sad to be here. I know there's a lot of people that I respect very much who are speaking at this event, who have been friends of mine for a long time. Haven't talked to them in 6 months because they abandoned me just like everybody else. Because I went down to Antarctica and came back and told you the truth. Can you imagine? You're all truthers, and you turned your back on me for going on a trip and telling you the truth. So what do you think that does to,
appeal to emotion,
in my opinion, of the truthers of the flat Earth? But what separates me from the community is exactly that I will follow the evidence even if it leads me somewhere uncomfortable. I'm not here representing NASA. I'm not here on behalf of any government. I'm just here on my own telling you my observations and what they mean to me. What is this debate not about, I guess, is, let me get to this part. So my opponent, obviously Austin, I think Austin's sharp. I think he's articulate. I think he's smart. I think he's undeniable.
Hasty generalization fallacy, right? Drawing a conclusion about like an entire population of people based on kind of insufficient evidence and holistically, improperly grouping them all together.
Passionate. I used to admire that passion, and I do, but I think that the passion without precision is just noise. Austin's approach is a philosophical approach, I believe, more than it is scientific.
This was so wild when I heard that said, bro. Am I tripping, bro? Jeran is saying that my approach is more philosophical than scientific. Brother. Are you serious, man? Like, kind of the reason I wasn't super shocked by him flipping and people were like, I don't understand. How can he go like just forget about all these years of evidence and stuff like that? While I'm somewhat perplexed, I'm like, dude, you realize you can't just like ignore all these other things. You know a lot of these things, right? I've heard you explain them very well. At the same time, like if you were listening to Jeran, he straight up told you, like when he tells you a story of figuring out about flat Earth, he thought it was preposterous when his wife brought it up. Planes go around the world. Then he saw the AE map and he's like, oh, a plane could do a circle on that map. And then was like, whoa, it could be flat. So he always explains like his journey as being intimately tied to the AE map, as being like foundational to his understanding and acceptance of the idea. And typically he would always like for his like really big points, right, in like a closing of some type of group panel or something, he would always bring up stuff like the Stephen Hawking's documentary. That was like his go-to. Like, why would they have to lie about it if there's nothing to hide? So I do find it kind of rich that he's saying I have a philosophical approach as opposed to a scientific one. I think that if you actually take a very rigid, dogmatic scientific approach by the books, the globe like can't hold water, pun intended, right? Like it just like immediately falls apart. And actually scientific criticism is like kind of the staple of my entire position, right? So I have a logical approach and the root of my primary argument is the basic logic, right? That of burden of proof, and that the default claim is that the Earth is a stationary topographical plane, and then the claim antithetical to that has the burden of proof. But anyway, I'm not going to make this take forever by commenting on everything, especially if some people are agreeing to come on.
And here's what we can expect Austin to do tonight, at least in my opinion. He's not going to answer my questions because he's going to leave us with no picture of how the world works or how it looks or how it operates. No idea of its layout, no understanding or no clue about how anything works. He won't offer any explanations since flat Earth doesn't have any. It will instead say the default position is that we live on a flat plane. But throughout history, we've already corrected that error. The globe is a counterintuitive suggestion. I agree with that. However, it is true. So he also won't at any time offer a working map or model, won't provide a model that matches all known observations, won't explain how you can have circumpolar stars in the south, seen from the continents, the 3 continents, explain why the north at 80 degrees are seeing an inverse but identical observation today that we made 6 months ago to the day, predict sunrise and sunset times for every location on Earth with a flat Earth geometry, or tell us how the sun stays visible for 24 hours at a time in Antarctica unless he invokes refraction or reflection.
Jeran, real quick. Jeran, I paused the time for you. Before we started, you said you were going to minimize yourself. Are you thinking you're showing something right now?
No, I'm not showing anything yet.
Okay.
I'll get
all right. Good.
Yeah.
I'll resume the time.
Okay, thanks. So one of the biggest problems is that that I've seen is that the flat Earth has become somewhat of a cult. So why did I leave it? Well, I left it.
John, hello, Witsit. Always wonder, why don't you use Flat Earth Dave's talking points when you are defending FE? Are they just weak, or you don't agree? I mean, I agree with some of them. I don't agree with all of them, and I just have my own approach. I think sometimes Dave is a little too quick to make claims real definitively before fully vetting them out. But I think for the most part, he has pretty sound arguments. You'd have to be more specific. To me, it's like it's like the Earth measures flat. There's physical, empirical measurements and evidence falsifying the claim of sphericity that have to be dealt with. And that's really what it comes down to. So, and look, I just make my own arguments. Falsification is independent of replacement in the default position based on all empirical evidence. It's the Earth's stationary topographical plane. Indisputably, the initial primary default position, and this is super important. It reframes the entire conversation as opposed to the way it's always presented, which is the exact opposite. Wait, you're saying it could be flat? How does this work? How does that work? Prove it. Ha 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 ha. It's like, that's not how any of this works, bro. It's not, like, dude, I go out and I see that ocean, it looks flat. I'm like, yeah, because it's flat, bro. I'm like, I don't feel the Earth moving because it's not moving. I see the stuff in the sky moving because stuff in the sky is moving. I am well aware of all the claimed explanations for those things to do what? To explain them away. Okay, so since you're making a claim to explain away what? The default position. Okay, so you have the burden of proof, and that is always overlooked unless it's highlighted. I think it is the most important part. It is a very strong position to take, and just objective.
Not because I was debunked, not because I lost a debate or because I was paid off or because I was got tired of fighting. I left because I did something that very few in this community are willing to do. That's testing our conception of the Earth. Think of what the flat Earth has brought in 10 years. It's been 10 years. We have brought nothing to the world. We have invented nothing. We have increased the knowledge of nothing. We have just spun our wheels and ran on a hamster wheel and then got off and been like really proud of ourselves.
And dude, the truth is, like, people like in ether cause and stuff, the amount of stuff that we've discovered and put together is really insane. To like, especially like if you publicly talk about this, completely jeopardizes jeopardize you in professional capacity. You can't go in any type of academic circles actually trying to pursue these type of things. You to even like get it within those circles or get a degree or something, actually have to just like regurgitate a process of basically, antithetical claims and pseudoscientific claims and stuff like that. And we have no resources. You're censored. All of these things. All the discoveries we've come up with you know, like finding the stuff that was hidden in the satellite data that actually shows anisotropic propagation, right? And then you have to add velocity to the supposed constancy of light, which refutes relativity, the relativistic corrections to an ECI, right? The actual integration of inertial forces in the satellite equations, which are external to the mechanical system that is claimed within the mainstream model, right? These things that we've figured out, we did it all on our own. We dug through all the evidence. We dug through all the documents. We've done a ton. You know, and like indisputably, we have pushed this conversation forward, and it's spilled over into kind of the consciousness of the masses, and it shifted the Overton window. That's like undeniable. Like in 2025, like openly questioning if a space mission is faked is not even a big deal anymore. It's not even like taboo really anymore. The whole world was talking about the Katy Perry spaceflight being fake. So to say we've done nothing, I don't know, like invented anything. What inventions require this specific acknowledgement that the Earth measures flat? All inventions utilize that in practical terms, right? So I don't understand this art. This is so irrelevant. And again, it's like poisoning the well. You know, it's like a red herring. It's a genetic fallacy. It's an ad hominem fallacy. But anyway.
But when you look back, you didn't go anywhere. You didn't do anything. We didn't bring anything to the world. And there's a certain point where you need to say, hey, shouldn't we have something?
It's just totally not true, right? Like we've brought awareness to, like, say, the philosophical implication in what is masqueraded as scientific conversations that are then indoctrinated into children at a young age, that the Earth's a tiny, insignificant speck of dust, free falling in an ever-expanding vacuum of nothingness. You know, where we're tilted, wobbling, spinning, revolving, flying around the sun, flying, you know, 500,000 miles an hour and over 1,000,000 miles per hour in addition to that. And that's completely bunk. And that the Earth occupies a very special and unique position, being static. And because of the philosophical implications of that, they have lied about it and hidden that, and came up with preposterous, insane, reified, paradoxical, pseudoscientific nonsense, and then purported it to be true to the masses, even after they themselves discover it can't be true and have to update it to whatever they can. They keep teaching it anyway, right? Like, to say we've done nothing, like we've raised massive awareness to the conversation of like the Earth being in the center of the universe, the Earth being special, mainstream science being a lie, like them claiming to go to space being a lie. So I just fundamentally disagree with this. I think you would have to actually put your head in the sand to ignore the fact that the questioning of the mainstream model of Earth and mainstream cosmology and claims of going to space, the Overton window is so in such a significantly different position than it was like 10 years ago. Again, perfect example, the whole world just questioned Katy Perry spaceflight or whatever.
By now, shouldn't we have something? So I tested my conception of the Earth. I went to Antarctica. I witnessed the 24-hour sun. I saw it with my own eyes. It means that the South is not a lie. We'll get into that. But let's talk about the so-called research that was done around the response to the final experiment. Spoiler alert, there wasn't any. No investigation, no travel, no counter-experiments, just knee-jerk denial, memes, name-calling, lazy live streams from basements with the globe in the trash and Dave Weiss's app back on a digital Ouija board. Instead of being met with genuine curiosity, my trip to Antarctica, something this community has claimed that they wanted for years. This was something that people pushed for, wanted, said was impossible. We went and did it, but instead it was treated like betrayal. Why? Because I didn't come back with a blurry GoPro clip of an ice wall. Instead, I came back with something far more dangerous to flat Earth, and that's the truth. I watched the sun circle my head for 4 straight days. I recorded it. We live streamed it. We showed angles, timestamp, shadows, sun.
Someone says, are you prepared to admit that Jeran's actions are exactly what a plant would do? I don't think that a plant would actually do it the way that he did it, to be honest. I think that he would have came back and been very transparent about being confused and trying to figure it out and have everyone on and hear all the arguments and then change and flip. Right? I don't think he would have come at it so aggressively. dude, I was there. Like, he was trying to hide that he was like getting emotional about the situation at one point after the flight back. I was with him in the same hotel room, in the same tent. I was with him the whole time. Like, dude, I don't think that happened at all. Is it possible? Sure. It would be like incredibly arrogant of me to think that I couldn't be tricked or something, but you have to understand my position is I know that people on the internet saying that, they don't even know him at all, didn't hang out with him, weren't there, didn't see the process at all. And I know I saw it very intimately. And I can tell you, I think that he was just embarrassed. He thought that we weren't going to see it. We weren't going to get to go. He's been very confident about the AE map. And to him, it just doesn't make sense if the AE map's not true. This doesn't even actually falsify the AE map, by the way. Again, you can have some type of crystalline structure, firmament that causes the optical apparent position, the optical effect in the apparent position of the sun towards the outside. But whatever.
Spots, you name it, all things that wouldn't exist as we saw them on a flat Earth. And so what do I get for that? Shill, actor, Freemason, CGI. The usual default settings of belief systems that can't survive contact with reality.
False claim of
This has opened my eyes to what
exclusivity.
the truth
False claims of exclusivity are like globe proponents go to, by the way.
community really is. If this is the kind of research that they do about the Antarctic trip, then think of all the things that I thought they were researching correctly before. And it becomes a little bit like a cult when you can't question the doctrine, you can't update the model, you can't accept conflicting evidence.
All right, I gotta say this. This is the most ironic part of this right here. If this is the kind of research that they do, so what are you like acknowledging that you just kind of handed off the decision making to other people? Like you didn't investigate and test things out and prove them to be true yourself. You were just trusting other people's research and what they did, because you're saying, if I now know, because I was there, that they do this poor of research with the Antarctica, what else did I fall for and trust them on with other things? Secondly, you're openly declaring as the primary staple of your argument a lack of discernment. You're saying, I had terrible discernment. I can't discern things at all and test them out for myself. Therefore, you would be stupid not to trust my discernment right now. It's kind of silly. And look, none of this is personal, obviously. I'm just being honest about all this. I've been super chill about all of it, right? People have wanted me to go at Jeran this whole time. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. So I'm a very loyal person, to such an extent that it ends up screwing me over in my life pretty consistently. I'm so loyal that it's utilized as a weakness. I sit back knowing things people think I don't know, letting people stab me in the back, biting my tongue, taking the high road, not revealing what I know, playing dumb. I'm not going to sacrifice my own integrity because of the actions of someone else. I'm not even talking about Jeran specifically with that, just in general. I feel very strongly about being loyal and loyalty, right? So I'm like a very loyal person. And if that loyalty it absolutely can be utilized as a weakness and taken advantage of. But I would still rather look back and I'll be honest, like there's a good balance there where you shouldn't just give your loyalty to the wrong people, and you should know when it's being utilized like that, and you still just let people show their true colors or whatever. But just explaining that to you, I mean, it should be like, I'm just loyal. Jeran's had my back in other situations, and then I've had his back in other situations. I know him in like real life. I don't feel compelled to try to go to war with Jeran as a person at all. If I felt that he was actually some Masonic actor plant that was lying about all this and was deceiving the world, then yeah, we'd be going to war. But I don't think that at all. At all. And I actually do trust my discernment.
And you sure as hell can't leave if you notice that. It's Scientology with memes, basically. So here's my evidence focus area. Number one, I want to remind everybody that today's date is 6 months to the day that we filmed the 24-hour sun. Why is that important? Well, because we can actually go watch the time lapse of the sun circling us right to left in the south. If we went today to Google Earth and we went to 80 degrees north, we would see the exact opposite observation in the sky. Everything identical, 35 degrees at its high, 15 degrees at its low, moving left to right this time. So how is it that we have places in the world that are symmetrical and upside down from each other? There's only one shape that could possibly be, and it's not flat. If the
No. Now I got to point this out. Witsit appealing to emotion right now. No, I'm not. Okay, let me enlighten you here, right? First of all, what argument am I making that I'm using an appeal to emotion to support? Let's think about it. Was I saying the 24-hour sun doesn't disprove flat Earth because of I'm loyal? No. What point was I making? I was saying people keep trying to get me to turn on Jeran. I'm not going to. I'm a loyal person. I don't feel compelled to do that. That wasn't appealing to emotion. I don't know why it gets under my skin so much that one of the number one things that annoys me is people using fallacy accusations when they don't understand them and doing it so confidently and cocky, right? It's like logic, it requires some sophistication and some competence. I can be very blunt with you, okay? There are levels to this, humbly. A lot of people just like lack basic reasoning skills and logic. Like they just don't comprehend it, okay? Logical fallacies invalidate an argument. They don't even invalidate a conclusion or falsify a claim. They invalidate the arguments, meaning that the line of reasoning is not sound. It's fallacious. I think I'm going to build a course about logic and fallacies and how to debate and how to understand them. A lot of people ask me, I'm going to build a course about it. And also you can use that as then logos as part of the trifecta of ethos, pathos, logos, right? Being ethics, passion, logic as the art of persuasion to be able to be convincing and compelling whenever you speak. Because there's the world, this is how they get away with everything. This is how people believe the craziest pseudoscientific nonsense, have never even examined their worldview, couldn't even articulate their own worldview, could certainly not present any type of logical syllogism or sound reasoning that helped them build and establish that worldview, don't comprehend the implications of their worldview. It's very easy to deceive the masses when they're staring at their phone, looking at nonsense, and are always super distracted and floating up here at the surface level, never really doing deep internal reflection and actually comprehending the logical implications embedded in their worldview and beliefs and conclusions, right? Like ontological emptiness. So, buddy, I wasn't appealing to emotion. I didn't say, hey, I'm so loyal, this proves my argument. Appealing to emotion is when he's supposed to be doing an opener, an intro to a debate. In his opening statement, he's talking about how he was turned on and people betrayed him and all this stuff. It's like, that's totally inconsequential to whether or not you're correct about your conclusion that the Earth's a globe. You're in the affirmative position that it is a globe. You're supposed to be providing supportive evidence for that assertion. Okay, so just stay in your lane, bro. You know, honestly, just stay in your lane. Like people do this all the time. They're so eager to catch me on a fallacy that they just say the stupidest stuff ever, bro. Okay, just stay in your lane. You know, the average person just simply doesn't understand logic. And, you know, I will say, and this is very important, it's one of the things that men excel at over women, generally speaking, right? Women are more emotional, But now we just have a general populace that lacks logic. They can't assess things void of emotion. And I mean, look at the state of affairs in the world.
Earth is flat. The South has to be a lie. Period. There's no getting around that. You can't have an opposite of the North like we're taught, and then
The South has to be a lie. What does that mean?
and say that the Earth is flat, but it still works that way. No, it wouldn't work that way. So if we went down there and we saw that the South was not a lie, then that's pretty good evidence that the Earth is what we were taught. So if you're unaware of it, it's time you figured.
Mind you, we didn't go down and I don't even know what that means, but we didn't go down and see the South was or wasn't anything, right? We went to a specific place called Punta Arenas, stayed there for a second, got on a plane, flew like 4 hours south over a large body of water and hit a huge expanse of ice, seemingly Antarctica, right? And then we went to a specific place just inland off the coast of Antarctica. We didn't verify that the South is anything. So we did verify that you can do that very thing I just said, seemingly be in Antarctica, and that the sun stays in the sky and just keeps doing a circle.
Out that if the Earth is flat, then the South cannot be what we were taught. Therefore, if it is exactly what we were taught, then guess what the shape of the Earth is? So in December 2024, I knew the following: the South is either a lie or we were wrong. So I decided to take a free trip to check. And throughout this debate, I will be focusing on a few main points. Each of them is a dagger in the heart of the flat Earth model. It's the reason that I switched. It sucks. It's the last thing anybody wants to do. It's the worst thing I've ever had to do. However, I'm a truther. So despite the people yelling and screaming, the people lying about me, so-called truthers, Steve Falconer blocking me, or, you name it, Dave Weiss blocking me, no contact, these people are not truthers. If they were truthers, wouldn't you want to know what Jeran has to say? This guy was a flat earther for 10 years, and now he's flipped. Let's listen to him. Nope. Instead, you all blocked me. You all refuse to listen because you're in an echo chamber. That's what you've built.
Red herring, non sequitur, ad hominem, genetic fallacy, appeal to emotion, poisoning the well. Bring some guests on. I'm going to. I should have been more cautious with how much I'm commenting on everything, but I'm trying to get through this opener and my opener and get into the topic. I don't know if you guys are down, but I would prefer to speed it up a little bit more. You guys can let me know if this is too fast.
For yourself, it's the only way flat Earth survives is if you sit in that echo chamber and repeat each other and pretend that Steve Falconer's video did anything other than prove the globe. The South Celestial Pole is visible from the South continents. It rotates just like the North Celestial Pole, but clockwise instead. The South Pole itself is a geographic
If
location.
any of the boys are listening, I'm dropping in Telegram, dropping the link.
It's verified by directional convergence and solar angles. The reverse sun and moon motion, easily explained by simply saying the word sphere. Tropic of Capricorn behavior, curving to the left, not to the right, easily explained by saying the word sphere. Southern star trails, matching observations that only make sense with a spherical rotating Earth. Circumpolar stars in the south that would never work on a flat Earth, impossible, but they work perfectly when you say the word sphere. Sunrise and sunset, left to right, setting and rising, predicted on a globe, unexplainable, and a paradox on flat Earth. The apparent fake second refracted something cop-out sun is basically the only out that the flat Earth has, is to introduce apparent suns, second suns, third suns, reflected suns, even though that's not how the world works. So my final thoughts is, thank you, Austin, I know you too want the truth. So being that we saw the same thing, I think it's time that we figure out how you can see differently than I do now. If the globe accounts for every single observation that we saw.
Obviously, that was just a straw man fallacy, like 7 or 8 of them, and then just a baseless assertion, hand wave dismissal of that's not how the world works. Well, for one, you didn't still Madden or even articulate any of those positions that you're referencing on purpose. You made it sound stupid and ridiculous so that you could then attack that version of the argument. That's the definition of a straw man fallacy. Secondly, you're invoking people that are not present. This is supposed to be a debate against my position. It's supposed to be your evidence about the fact the Earth's supposedly a globe. And you didn't even refute any of that. You just said, that's not how the world works. What's not how the world works? The sun is provably in an apparent position. Provably. So it's literally how the world works. And I can replicate the effect. So it is literally how the world works, right? Like that literally happens and works that way in the world. And that, of course, not being how he just characterized it, but for example, how if you can take a dome and you can create the optical effect that with a singular light source moving in a circle over top of an AE map along the edges, there will be an apparent position of a sun, right, that will be going the opposite way in a smaller circle continually. anyone that's being honest with it, that's what are the odds of that? What are the odds that if you put a dome over an AE map and move a light source over the top of it in a circle like the sun, that all along the outside there will be a little what appears to be another little sun out there just doing a little circle, staying in the sky the whole time, the opposite direction, and it will be there for anywhere, any person all along the edge on the outside. That's wild. Realistically, that's pretty crazy. I mean, whatever.
On the trip, and the flat Earth didn't account for any. It failed. It was disproven. It was falsified. Then
one's in the chat if it's too fast. I mean, one's in the chat if you want me to keep it this speed. Two's in the chat if it's too fast.
I have to ask you, Austin, why you would remain in the camp that has nothing, and is that still you being a truther? But at the end of the day, I have something that he does not really. It's an explanation that actually works. So to the audience, I'm not asking you to believe me. I just ask you to think, to test, to observe, to not just discount me outright. Listen, learn, and take it in, and then go and do your own observations. I've got evidence tonight that you can do on your own. You don't need NASA, you don't need authority. You can figure out by the end of today what the shape of the Earth is. And we were wrong. It's okay. Guess what? I'm a truth seeker. I told you guys that we were looking for the shape of the Earth. We found it. Let's move on. Let's get over it. Let's get past it. Thank you.
All right, you are muted.
Yep.
So I'm trying to make sure we're right here. So it's rebuttals right now. Do I do my opening right now or my rebuttal?
Not sure.
You do your opening now, and then you guys will do your rebuttals, starting with Jeran.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right. Let me replace. Okay, cool. I don't have a timer. Here, I'll set a timer.
I got a timer here.
Okay, yeah, just let me know when I'm getting close or whatever. It's cool.
Yeah, I'll call out the 1 minute mark.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna do this anyway. All right. Okay, cool. All right, so yes, Jeran and I are obviously have been friends for quite a while, and it is somewhat poetic that we're doing this at the summits, which we used to run together, and we did indeed go to Antarctica. So I am going to have to it's a debate, and so I'm just going to have to do what we do in debate. So I will lay this out, and I'll save a lot of the stuff I maybe would have said for the rebuttal, period. But to lay out kind of the issue with the South Pole claim and what happened in Antarctica, right? It's really simple. It's just an illogical premise, right? Because it affirms the consequent. And in its core, it's an appeal to incredulity. This is why I did not flip to the globe. That is my answer, is that to maintain logical consistency, I could not have flipped on all of the logical foundation, the evidences, the refutations, simply because
I'll bring guests on after the intro.
I, at one point, didn't understand how something worked. If I were to say, oh, well, I can't see how this would work on a flat Earth, therefore it can't be flat, therefore it must be a globe, that's called an appeal to incredulity, meaning I don't understand it, so it can't be true. And this is a very dangerous fallacy, right? If we applied that standard to everything else in the world, then we would have never made any type of progression. So that's like my core issue with it is the people I have seen flip and ask them, they're just articulating to me that they don't understand how it could work on a flat Earth. And that kind of leads into the next part, right? Which is that they shift the burden that I would say that the globe holds over to me or a flat earther, right? Shifting the burden of proof, which is the person that challenges or denies your positive assertion, you're asking them to prove that it isn't true. So yes, that is correct. I will say that the flat Earth is the default position because it is. I think Jeran is going to be more honest than most people, right? So when we typically debate this conversation, so I would imagine he would acknowledge that the default position is that the Earth's a stationary plane. He said that we figured it out over time, that we've been able to replace it. Like we can discuss that, right? But the default position is that the Earth is stationary. The default position is that the Earth is a topographical plane. We utilize it as such, like for almost everything that we do. For transportation, for civil engineering, we actually build that way. We fly planes that way. Like we have to utilize it as a plane. We actually measure elevation vertical, perpendicular to a horizontal baseline that is a sea level, the horizontal datum, and it goes on and on. There are many evidences that we live on a plane, but it is the default position. Therefore, just logically speaking, to claim that the antithesis of that is true, right? The opposite of that, it has the burden of proof. I don't really think that Jeran is denying that. I think he's saying that he thinks it's been satisfied. But the only issue is that if you didn't go to satisfy that burden, it cannot be an articulation of an appeal to incredulity because you don't understand how it can work on a flat Earth. It can't be, well, if I assume the Earth's a globe, this makes perfect sense. It makes more sense to me than whatever I would think of a flat Earth. I had reified a model prior to this, and therefore, since it doesn't work with the reification of my prior model, it can't be flat, it must be globe. These are just fallacious. And this is the very issue that's got us into this free falling through an infinite vacuum, infinitely at 66,600 miles per hour nonsense that we currently were told is true. This is the very line of reasoning that got us into the ever-expanding Copernican model that people believe to be true. Now, I don't know Jeran's specific position now. I don't know if he's a geocentrist or not, et cetera, but we're talking specifically more about the shape. Is it a globe is the question. So I'm going to list off some evidences. I just want to make that very clear that like on its face, a stationary topographical plane is the default position based on empirical evidence. The antithesis of that would be that it's actually a globe, that it's a sphere, that the Earth is spinning convexly at a certain rate, and therefore it has the burden of proof. And if you point to the sky and say, well, if we were on a sphere, when I get over to the other side of it, everything would be upside down. And since this stuff looks upside down, therefore the Earth has to be a sphere because I can't understand how that would work on a flat Earth. That isn't a sufficient argument. That is affirming the consequent, shifting the burden, reifying your model, begging the question, and more importantly, it's just an appeal to incredulity. That's what it is. So that's why I don't resonate with it at all. So I'll list off some of the evidences of how we know that it is flat. It is a default position. Any positive claim requires the burden. And I actually don't resonate with people that just say stuff in the sky doesn't matter. And they throw their hands up, and I can understand even even Jeran's frustration with that, because I don't resonate with that at all. I think that we should always try to understand the way that things work. We should always seek out answers. We shouldn't try to look at this as some type of little gotcha game where we don't have to answer that. Haha. But it is true that just because I observe a celestial phenomena, it doesn't then make all other evidence dissipate, right? So we look at the preponderance of evidence, we have to stay logically consistent, and we have to see what the empirical evidence actually says, and then we go and test it, and we see what the answer is. We don't throw out 95% of evidence because there's 1 or 2 or 10 outliers that we don't know how to currently explain. So I would say one of the really strong pieces of evidence that we live on a plane is something that we recently found out, which is if you actually take angle measurements to stars, say from a ground and from the surface of the Earth, you're going to see that the star gets occulted by the mountain. As soon as that moment happens, you can take the time, you can measure that angle, and you can compare it to the angle of, like, say, in stellarium. At that exact time you took the time measurement, as soon as the star was occulted, you can then go to the mountain, compare that angle, and it is as if it is planar geometry. It matches perfect. The flat Earth prediction to that star matches perfect, whereas the globe, it would be an entirely different position, many degrees different. And the issue is that they would then have to try to claim refraction, but the star has already been occulted prior to the measurement, so refraction can't even be applicable. So the actual occultation of the star in relation to topography, and the guy that initially went and made this measurement was a glober. He went out there and he saw that the prediction is, you can predict it perfectly with flat Earth, doesn't match the globe at all, and refraction didn't work. He ended up leaving the globe. So it's very similar experience to what Jeran experienced, only he went the other way, right? So that just is a piece of evidence, and there is no sufficient rebuttal I've heard for the globe. We can also talk about the linear distribution of the electrical field. We actually have an electrical field on the Earth, and it's a linear distribution, horizontal field lines of the electrical field. This cannot happen. It has to be a radial distribution on a sphere, and it would actually fall off exponentially away from the center, but that's not what we observe. We don't observe that. The linear distribution of the electrical field is a major issue. It's an impossibility on a sphere, right? So what typically happens, I'm guessing that we're getting close to my time, so I got 2 more minutes. So what typically happens is it is what we've always experienced, and this is why I will be very blunt. I'm quite perplexed about Jeran's approach. Like, I was there with him. To all the people that are saying that he's faking, he's not. I was there. I am in no way going to attack Jeran's character in terms of if I think that he believes this or if he's being honest. I think that he does believe it. He does feel like he's being honest, and he feels that he's willing to take shots and attacks to do it. So that aside, because it doesn't really matter. Take all the personal stuff out of it. We're trying to figure out actually like what the truth is. Yes, I went to the south. We went to what is seemingly Antarctica, a giant sheet of ice south from Punta Arenas. We saw the sun, and it circled around us, and it didn't go down. So then to claim that proves that it's a globe, I would have to say, if the Earth's a sphere, in the winter, when I go to Antarctica, the sun will be in the sky for 24 hours. Oh, look, sun stays in the sky, does a circle for 24 hours, therefore Earth's a globe. It's a textbook affirming the consequent. Textbook affirming the consequent fallacy. I can say Sasquatch delivers me mail every Friday. I can go find out that there's mail in my mailbox on Friday, therefore Sasquatch is real. To apply that type of logic, it is an infinite regression. You would never find truth. So this is the reason why I haven't flipped. It's because of the empirical evidence. And we could list them off and it's endless, right? Just the base empirical position, the default position based on empirical evidence that the Earth's flat. How are we even actually making accurate elevation angle measurements in the center of a continent if we're using a horizontal datum, a horizontal baseline that starts at the sea that's thousands of miles away? We extend that horizontally to the center of a continent and then measure vertical distance above that, perpendicular to it. How is it that planar geometry is perfectly predicting and matching the angle to that star once it's occulted by the mountain, and matches the based on the time of the observer standing on the top of the mountain? You can draw a straight line from observer to top of the mountain to star, and it perfectly matches an angle down to a horizontal baseline with planar geometry, where it's significantly different on a globe, but yet the star's not where it's supposed to be, and we can't invoke refraction because it's after the star is occulted.
1 minute.
So I will say, basically, what always happens is people say, well, then how would this work, this work, this work, this work? And if I don't get my answers, then you lose Earth's a globe, as if we are to grant them the presupposition of a model that they have reified. That is not how it works logically. So yes, in conclusion, the Earth default position is as a stationary topographical plane. The burden of proof is on the other side and needs to prove it. And when there's direct geometric refutations to that claim, they cannot be hand waved because there's another celestial observation that you think is better explained by that model that was just refuted, right? We can't actually skip over to that part. So that is very simply my position. And I think that is based on the logical parameters of how we actually examine the discussion in the first place. So.
And time. Cool. All right. Thank you, Austin. All right, gentlemen, the next part of the debate is the rebuttals. And so we're going to afford Jeran 7 minutes to rebut to what he just heard.
So this is just me presenting myself. Okay, gotcha. It's not asking questions. That'll be okay. Gotcha.
I'm just going to respond to what Austin said.
Okay, thanks.
Let me add you to the full screen. All right, you're good.
Okay, so the issue I have there is that the way Austin's describing it, he's saying that if nobody can explain how something works, well, it doesn't mean it's not true. But we would never get to the truth if that were the case. If the case were that anything could be true, even if it doesn't have any explanation, doesn't explain anything, but somebody just says, well, I think it's true, because that's basically what he's saying, is that if we have different ideas on the shape of the Earth, he's saying it doesn't make it.
I was muted. We're gonna have some guests jumping in, so we'll play these rebuttals because actually I want to hear me like list off the fallacies as well that he in the rebuttal, and then we will go from there. Dude, Gally pointed out what I was already noticing, that like I didn't really fix my hair, and it looked way better in the debate. I'm like, yeah, thanks for confirming what I was just thinking. So there's like, it's just like a short rebuttal. So we're listening to his rebuttal, and then I do a rebuttal where I like go through the fallacies he says, and then we'll bring on guests. We start going back and forth. We'll get into like the specific arguments.
difference if one of them makes all the predictions and the other one makes none, because simply because you don't know how it works doesn't mean it's false. Oh, then that would be true for anything. So I think we live on a dog, and then you might say, well, that wouldn't work. How could we live on a dog? And I'd say, well, just because you don't understand how it works doesn't mean it's not true. So I mean, we could do that forever. We could live on anything then. I mean, there's no, you have a group of things that you look at, and then you find out which one better matches the observations. Now, for me, the flat Earth better matches observations when you're talking about the Earth looks flat. It operates and appears flat. And everything we do is with the flat Earth. That's because no matter where you're at, it's flat. So you can treat the Earth completely and totally like it's a flat plane, and that's how you best do it. When you're flying a plane, when you're building a bridge, when you're building a canal, if you took the curvature of the Earth into account, it wouldn't make any sense because where we build is level. So we use a spirit level where we're at, and that is a level plane where it is. And yes, down the road that way or that way are not quite still level with where you're at, but that's not needed in any walk of life. We don't ever look down the way and say, oh, how do we line up with that? We just build a canal, we just build a bridge, we just build where we're at, we use a spirit level, and that's how it works on a sphere. You said that, I guess where I was confused, if all observations match predictions, then that's where you live. So I don't know how to better explain this, is that if you're given a map of your apartment complex and you're asking, hey, where's the laundry room? And they say, here's a map. And outside of your door, they show a pool, but there's no pool in front of you. You can then at that point take the map back to the office and say, this map is incorrect because it doesn't match observations. So we have a map like that. It's called the AE map, and it no longer matches the observations. Therefore, you can take it back to the office and say, hey, this map doesn't work anymore. And then you can take the globe and you can say, well, how about this one? And Austin mentioned going down to 80 degrees and seeing Punta Arenas and blah, blah, blah. And then he said, but that doesn't mean that the Earth's a sphere. Well, what it points out is that every single location that you or I have ever been to, and I dare say every single location that anybody watching this debate has been to, matches the observations given to us by mapping the Earth on a sphere. It does not match any flat plane, doesn't match any cylinder or pyramid. It matches a sphere. The Earth is mapped on a sphere. You can call any of your friends, no matter where they live, and ask them, hey, can you go check and see if the sunrise, sunset comport to this model and this prediction? And their answer every single time will be yes. We have Google Earth, which has never been disproven by one person. It doesn't get the angles of the sunrise and sunset wrong. It gets them right, and it's based on a sphere model. You talked about the celestial theodolite, but you need stellarium to even talk about it. So again, now you're using a globe Earth spherical system in order to tell me that the Earth is flat by using the numbers that the sphere system gives you. I'm not even going to go down that road. That seems to be preposterous on its face. Electrical field on the Earth, I don't know what you mean by linear distribution. You mean that it's, I guess I don't know what you mean. It goes up in a linear fashion, I guess is what you mean. So I don't know why that wouldn't work on a sphere. As I said, wherever you're at is level. So therefore, above my head would be a linear progression of electrical field. Doesn't make a difference if the Earth's a sphere because it doesn't matter for where I'm at. You said we went south, we had a giant sheet of ice. Yeah, we did, but you have to remember we saw the sun south of us, and that refutes any flat Earth that's ever existed and will ever exist. That's the thing that people don't realize about this flat Earth. There'll never be another map, not for the rest of your life, not for the rest of your children's lives. There is no other way to map the Earth on a flat plane other than the AE map. That's it. And once the AE map has been falsified, we're done. It's time to get out. You can go back to the drawing board if you want and play around. I did that for 6 months and realized that's it. There's no more. If the sun circles in Antarctica, then it matches all observations of the sphere, and that's what it did. And the you said about the firming, the consequent, where I'm confused on that is, haven't you said before, Nathan Oakley and many people, they all say that the R value has been falsified, that the globe has been falsified. When you ask them why, they say, if the Earth is a sphere of blankety, blankety, blank, and, right, and then its distance to the horizon is 1.22 times the square root of, right, then the Earth's, so then they're doing the same thing. So now the number one evidence of the flat Earth that you guys use, the black swan, is an affirming the consequent. You just said that. If it's not, then why can't somebody say, if the Earth is a sphere and the sun does this, then we would see this in the south and we'd see that, therefore the Earth is a sphere. If that's not allowed, then neither is saying that the horizon is a little bit higher than it should be on that black swan. Which, by the way, I believe that guy Bo, who did that observation, says that he went out there every day for 6 months and then he saw that observation. So now the flat Earth is using a 1 day out of 6 month observation and going around telling people that that's proof that the Earth has been falsified. That's a joke. It's a literal joke that we would ever think an anomaly, meaning that 1 day out of, what would that be, 180, has an observation that makes the Earth flat, and so we're going to go around telling people that the globe Earth has been falsified because of an anomaly. That's crazy. So I think if you have different ideas about the shape of the Earth, which we did, again, I thought that the South was a lie. I thought that they were lying about the southern 24-hour sun. I thought they were lying about what happened south of the 60. That's why I thought they had the Antarctic Treaty. And guess what? I was wrong. When we go down there, we saw that the angles match perfectly.
Look, man, obviously what everyone's thinking is, bruh, if you thought stuff like that, then why didn't you say anything before now? Do you not know like the answer to the stuff you're saying? Like, yeah, on every once in a while you get really clear days and you can see way further. On the clearer days, then you can see way further and see what's really there. So, and it just takes one, right? That's why it's called. This is like saying, oh, that he had to go 6 months to find it, as if it's a refutation of the black swan. Shows you don't fully understand why it's called the black swan. The entire point is that it only takes one black swan to falsify the claim that all swans are white. So for the horizon to be no further than 1.225 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, according to the globe Earth radius claim of 3,959 miles, right? When you see the horizon is in fact further than that, you can no longer claim it. You can no longer claim all swans are white. That's the whole point. It's like, yeah, I mean, I've been making observations for a long time. That's the way it works. It's like on your average day, you can't see as far as you can on other days. And it's always when it's clearer. So what a coincidence. When it's clearer outside, you can see further, and it's not how far you're supposed to be able to see on the globe. And so to claim the globe, you have to say, when it's clearer outside, that's when there's the most refraction. I mean, I've been saying that for years and no glober ever addressed it. It's like, can you see further when it's clearer? Okay. When it's really clear, we see way too far. And then you have to therefore say, when it's clear, you have the most refraction. No guests have popped in yet, but we'll just keep playing.
In Punta Arenas, they had the sun going right to left. Again, people need to consider this. If you're on a flat Earth and you're at the south of South America, how is the sun going left? How is the sun going to the south? Guess what? There's a model that says the sun will go left. The sun goes south. It goes around the bottom of the Earth, comes back south of east. And that's exactly what we saw. So the globe Earth provides a, and again, I'll fully admit 100%. The globe is counterintuitive, but so is bugs in your tummy. So are a lot of things that we realize now are true. Go take a microscope and pull some bile out of your stomach and you're going to.
Do you guys like that more? Or there's this? Or this?
To see little swimming creatures. Now, you don't feel like they're in there, but they are. So the globe Earth is the same. You may feel like the Earth's flat. We may feel like there is no curvature. However, we just don't understand large spheres. A sphere can be so big, 24,901 miles in circumference, that you can't tell that it's curved because we're too small. That's how the Earth is a sphere and how it is kind of beautifully created, because you don't have to treat it like it's a sphere. It actually doesn't matter to your life. If you want to be a flat earther, that's fine, but get out of scientific studies, get out of scientific debates, because you don't have the kind of evidence to go up against a globe. You have to better present the world than the globe does. And the flat Earth can't explain anything. So that's basically my time.
These are all just like speculative, like trust me, bro points.
Okay. Thank you, Jeran, for your rebuttal. And next is Austin. You have 7 minutes as your rebuttal. I'll start the timer when you begin talking.
All right, cool. All right, so to rebut your opener and kind of some of the stuff you said right there, I'm just going to list off kind of what's wrong with these arguments. Okay, so we have, again, like I described actually earlier, we have shifting the burden of proof. That's when you make a positive claim. If someone challenges or denies your positive claim, you then tell them they have to prove it. Meaning, if we challenge or deny your claim that the reason that we see that the sun's up in the sky doing a circle for 24 hours is actually because we're tilted antipodal to someone on the other side of this presupposed globe. That actually the sun is 93 million miles away and there's an empty vacuum between us. And therefore, because all of the stars are at such immense distances that we don't ever see them, and that perspective doesn't actually affect where we see them, even though it moves just as if it would be because of perspective like everywhere else. And then about 5 more presuppositions. And you actually require these presuppositions.
Sped up's a little bit more intense with me, huh?
Positions to claim that geometric position of you on the globe is why you see the sun do that. So you list all of those off and then say, if that's not the case, which most of the people defending the globe, they just expect this to be granted. They very conveniently omit that it requires that many presuppositions to even then affirm the consequent that viewing the sun is that way, right? You have to do all of those, you have to claim all of those presuppositions and reify them, presuppose them, and then affirm the consequent to address the idea that we're doing the same thing we are not, right? Like the black swan argument, for example, is if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3,959 miles and the geometric physical horizon is at 1.225 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, it is not.
Can be no further than.
So therefore, the Earth is not a sphere. That is a falsification of a positive claim, as opposed to affirming the consequent, which is if the Earth is a sphere, we'll see the sun be in the sky for 24 hours. We see the sun in the sky for 24 hours. Therefore, Earth is a sphere. That's affirming the consequent, making a positive claim, presupposing the actual thing in question, and then just affirm it because of the outcome, like the actual observation itself, right? So as if to exclude any alternative possibility. This is why it's logically fallacious, right? And then of course, like the straw man of like it could be a dog. No, the position specifically is that we physically, empirically measure the surface. We utilize the surface to actually be a topographical plane, and then I listed off specific reasons why we have to utilize it to be a plane in the first place. And we can talk more about the positive evidence. I want to just specifically rebut these things. So we have shifting the burden of proof, affirm the consequent. Your whole opening really was like poisoning the well as well, right? Kind of like a hasty generalization, because there certainly are some people that act that way within the idea of flat Earth. Hasty generalization fallacy to put them all together, then kind of a stereotype fallacy, right, to describe what we all are, right? And then a genetic fallacy, because those people are like that, anything coming from them must not be true. And then, and these fallacies are packed into one, and then you use that to poison the well the entire time, right? Which is incredibly fallacious. And there were lots of ad homs in there, and then a lot of people that are not here, and I'm not going to answer for what they did or didn't say. I do also know, like, in good faith, I'll acknowledge that there's obviously a lot of context and history kind of leading up to this debate and what decided when Jeran. You did say that you tested it and tried to explain it for 6 months, and then you decided, well, really right when we got back, you started saying the Earth was a globe. It wasn't that you tested it and looked for alternative explanations. Okay. There you go. 6 months before. So, okay. And then begging the question, it's kind of the same thing as from consequence, just an informal, right? And then it was a lot of kind of an appeal to an emotion.
Okay. The entire point was if we go and confirm it, we actually have that evidence to now work with and anything else so we can really know exactly how it is before we can ever try to figure out exactly how it works. Exactly what did we observe? We can look at the evidence, exactly what did we see leading up to it, et cetera, and then we'll figure it out. We were supposed to go to the drawing board when we got back. We weren't supposed to come back and then immediately make like conclude. The truth is, like, if Jared ever had a moment where he was like, wait a minute, did I jump the gun? He went so hard so early that he put himself in a really tricky situation. The same situation that he used to always warn other people about, saying you can actually hurt the possibilities or chances of you getting someone in your family or your friends to see this by getting in real intense arguments with them because they'll dig their heels in. Or a lot of these people that have come out and said the things that they've said, they can never go back now, you know, even if they saw that the Earth was flat. And you're kind of doing the same thing to yourself here, where it's like, now that you did go back, it would be crazy for you to flip back. And, you know, you like, who would take what you're saying seriously at that point? You may have quite a bit of bias in this situation, to be honest.
Right?
And I know you think that's ironic. You think I have bias in this situation, but I'm sure there is some bias here, I guess. But like, I can honestly say I've tried to actively, you know, avoid that and think about that and account for that, even maybe overcompensate for that while I was there, actively present, and since then and leading up to it. The difference is I think that it might be a blind spot for you right now, you know, because you think you're doing for sure the opposite. You don't have a bias, you know, because you flipped positions. Well, yeah, now that you flipped and it was so intricately intertangled with like the personal attacks and all that it's pretty tricky for you to turn back now, you know.
It's really kind of irrelevant how these people act. They all turned on me as well, arguably more. And this is a big one. It's a false dilemma. It's a false dichotomy, which is either it's that AE map or it's my presupposed globe and there's no other alternatives. And so since I don't think that this observation works on the AE map, therefore it must be a globe. It's a false dichotomy fallacy. And there were many straw mans, as I've never even claimed that model to be true. I've actually said the opposite for a very long time. So, and again, the big one being the argument from incredulity. So I will say all of these claimed evidences, they require...
Yeah, I'll bring you guys on after the intro, brother.
I wish I knew the time. All these claimed evidences... Time?
You have 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. All these claimed evidences are presupposing so many things, bro. And that's the part that I'm very perplexed about, because we have all sat here and we've realized that we need to suspend belief. Not believing in the globe is a suspension of belief. And you're approaching this as if, no, it's actually us coming in and we have a super staunch positive belief. That is not my position at all. I am suspending belief, wiping the board clean, and be like, okay, what can be empirically validated? I'm not going to presuppose things. Again, let's just stick with the 24-hour sun. To say that the 24-hour sun, because you just defended it, you just stated the conclusion in your opener. You say the conclusion as a fact, right? So you're just saying that we saw it, therefore we proved it. You just told us about how it was definitively proof, not really how it wasn't or how it was proof. And then when you kind of even went in that direction, it was because I don't understand the alternative. I don't see how I could possibly work on the alternative. It matches the globe perfectly, which again affirms consequent. So I want everyone to just think about this. So the claim that
appeal to incredulity to then affirm the consequence.
The reason we saw in Antarctica is because we're on a sphere. We're going to claim that all the stars in the sky are infinite distances away, so far away that when we move across the surface of the Earth and it looks like they drop down when we move further away from them, it isn't because of perspective. How perspective changes everything else in the world. And when we see a plane fly away from us and it goes down, right, and it comes close to us and it goes up, perspective affects everything in the world. We use special pleading, which is claiming the exclusion to a universal principle, the exception to a universal principle, which is no, actually the sky is the one exception, the star is the one exception. Perspective doesn't change it. It does exactly what perspective would do to change the position, but it isn't because of perspective. And then to make that, so we have to presuppose that to even claim the globe is possible. That's why they've changed this so many times, kept pushing it back. Then to claim that those stars are that far away, you then have to answer the question of how would you be able to see it from that far away? So now you have to assume that there is a vacuum, that there's nothing between us, a near perfect vacuum, so you could even see
1
them.
minute.
And then you stack those on top of each other to come over and say, therefore, we're physically changing direction. It makes the perspective look as if it would if we were on a horizontal plane, but it's not perspective. And therefore, we see the sun where it is. And you have to assume the distance, pretty much assume the 93 million miles as well. So that's my main issue with this, is that before we even get to affirming the consequent, we have to, presuppose like 7 or 8 things. And that's kind of my rebuttal. I listed off all the fallacies. I won't listen back. I don't think I have a full enough time, but the big ones: argument from incredulity, an appeal to ignorance. You have shifting the burden of proof. You have begging the question, appeal to pity or emotion, false dilemma, slippery slope, strawman fallacy, affirmative consequent, ad homs, hasty generalizations, replication fallacies. And that's the issue: is that every single one of the arguments I've heard so far have literally been a textbook fallacy. So we can get into the specifics going forward.
I think we can.
And time. All right, thank you, gentlemen, for your rebuttals. And I think I want to announce to the audience right now, go ahead and start submitting your questions to the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Click that box, the Q&A should open as a pop-up. Be sure to submit your questions. And for the next 30 minutes, we're going to engage in an open cross-exam between Austin and Jeran.
I think it'd be good if we kind of go through and.
All right. Whoa, yeah. All right. So let me. I'm gonna catch up on the super chats right now. We're gonna go ahead and bring. Now I'm like looking at my hair. Dude, you know what? I will say it's so funny is I have like a whole situation with getting haircuts. Like I always say, like, okay, I want a 3 on the sides and the back to kind of blend to the top. Top doesn't go that fast. Don't go too much off or whatever. And then you're like helplessly sitting there while they cut your hair. And I was like pointing out, it's totally like Delilah. It's like when these women now have power over you and they want to take your power and cut your hair. They can't resist. It's like they're not even conscious of it. They just like want to take your power. Like the woman has control over you and just wants to talk and be flirty and just cut, distract you. And just like, it's so funny. They can't resist taking the power. But anyway, so I recently got a haircut and that's what happened. Like it happens almost every time, except for the last time before that, the person actually listened to me, but it's pretty funny. All right. So we're going to start bringing on the guests. I'm going to read the super chats. So we'll go ahead and be caught up and then we'll keep up with them going. The Amish Potato, thank you for the support, brother. Internet Stranger, ARS 200. So I just looked that up and that's apparently Argentine peso. It says 200 and it's equivalent to 16 cents in the United States dollar, dude. You should not be allowed to send me 16 cents, bro. Like, I'm assuming that they're still writing in mud and eating people there. Do you just go get a loaf of bread with a wheelbarrow full of currency? Like you just got to pull out a full book to buy groceries? Like what in the world? 200 is equivalent to 16 cents. Just trash the numbers, brother. Like, have you guys created a language there yet? What is going on? All right, let me read it. For the truth, we are near to understand the must be dome refraction thing. Too much attention to globetards already. Sorry, that was an incoherent 16-cent super chat, brother. But for the truth, are we near to understand the must be dome refraction? I'm sorry, I just no. It just shows a proof of concept that would happen. It's a very interesting coincidence. Daniel, good to see you streaming again. Keep up the good work. You are the goats. Thank you so much. I will be streaming a lot. You guys might get tired of me. Hey, what's a big supporter? You think it's possible the sun circled because it was the solstice? Any other time, maybe we don't see it circled the way it did. I don't know. I mean, it seemed like the people that worked there were just being honest about it. Just stays up. So no, I don't lean that way. I guess it's possible. I don't really lean that way. I think it's just some phenomena that it's like this kaleidoscope type of phenomena when you get out south. That's kind of what I think right now. John, I read that. Bud, green jeans. Have you ever researched? And assuming that you have, could you please share the Thai data for the black swan observation? Dude, that argument was presented in like 2020, brother. I don't have any of the conditions and stuff to share with you right now. It was a relatively calm day though. Nicholas Gas, thank you for the $10. All right. So we'll bring people on. I'm just going to add them. Boom, boom. All right. What's up, fellas?
Hello?
Hey.
Hey, I've never used Streamlabs before.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Alan, you there? Don't hear Alan, but that is my boy Galatrax. I'm sure Alan will figure it out. So we got Galtrax and Alan. What was your, if anyone did watch the debate at the end, I read off this like point kind of about the logical inconsistency or the lack of logical justification of Jeran's point, and I like trolled him and read it 3 times. Galtrax actually is the one that wrote that. What was your take on the debate overall, man?
Yeah, I debated Jeran on that point in on Telegram, and he thought that I copied that from you. He thought that I copied the if you had a justified belief beforehand, etc. I kept repeating it to him, but we argued about it a bunch. I think that if you spend 10 years justifying your position on something, and then all of a sudden an observation makes all of that justification go away instantly, and now your position is the opposite, then all of that justification was for naught and not very powerful justification, and now your new justification sucks just as much as your old did, but your old took 10 years to get to. That's my position.
Yeah, I mean, and I kind of said it generally the same point, right, in a different way a second ago, which is like kind of his whole point is like, I had really bad discernment and did not have a justified belief or a logical position prior to this for 10 years. That's why you should definitely agree with my position right now. That's dependent upon my justification and discernment. So it's like, all right, bro, it's not the best argument. You know what I'm saying? It's like with the Black Swan, the whole anomaly argument. It's like, okay, then like you're basically saying you just sat by and watched that this whole time and that's what you thought, or I don't understand. So all right, we'll keep playing. I don't know if Alan's gonna be able to make it, but if he can get it to work, but it's all good. So it's just this, we got so much of this left. It's crazy, but I'm going to keep it sped up and just kind of react as we go.
Maybe I'll ask a question of you. You can answer it, then you do one of me, just so that we can kind of stay on these topics. Because I think you've hit some good points that I want to kind of iron through. So the first one is that the stars do not act as perspective acts. Perspective does not adjust equally, meaning that if I move a certain distance, it lowers a certain distance, and if I move a certain more distance, it lowers the exact same distance. If anybody wants to go outside tonight, find a northbound longitude line and measure wherever 69 miles from you will be. When you get there, the North Star will change its position by 1 degree. Well, guess what 360 times 69 miles is? 24,901. Why is that? Because that's the shape of the Earth. That's the circumference of the Earth. You can go prove it tonight yourself. You don't need anybody. But flat earthers aren't going to tell you that. They're going to tell you, oh, it's perspective, and that's how perspective works. It's not how perspective works. Go measure the height of a telephone pole, walk halfway to it, measure it again, walk another same amount of distance, and you'll notice that it changes it. If you're walking towards a building, it gets bigger faster as you get closer to the building than it does when you're far away. This is not how the stars work. So the stars, he was false in that. He said that the stars operate as perspective would. That's not true. They don't. What's your, I guess you're.
Let's stop right there. Yeah. So you agree, like if a plane flies over your head and goes away, it looks like it's going down. As it flies close, okay. So perspective does in fact cause things in the distance to appear to go down towards the horizon and converge into that place. And, okay. So that's what I'm not talking about the exact ratio. The sky is for sure a very interesting phenomenon, right? I mean, indisputably in the paradigm of the globe, it's like wildly crazy phenomenon.
Wild, yeah, the things are pretty crazy. But I think that the flat Earth model that calls for stars circling your head would have parallax issues. They would have all kinds of stuff that we don't see anything of, right? We don't see the constellations change their orientation. So it does do exactly what the sphere calls for with these stars at a very, very far distance.
Well, this is why people got beef with Jeran, is because so many of these arguments, it's like what the Antarctica trip didn't reveal any of this. So it's like it comes across inauthentic to people, I think, because they're like, if you really think this, especially with the amount of conviction that you're saying it and how just like obvious it is according to how you're presenting it, why didn't you ever say it beforehand? So then the kind of the necessary implication is that you weren't being authentic then, or that you didn't have a justified position at all. You didn't think it out, weigh it out, etc., or even address these things in your own mind or position, right? So that's kind of like the conundrum here. Whereas honestly, you would have been better off to just kind of focus in on this and be like, yeah, there's still lots of things I don't understand. To be fair, you haven't given like refutations or rebuttals to a lot of the flat earth arguments or evidences. So it's not like that would have changed. you would have been better off just to say, there's a lot of things that, yeah, I think that show evidence for flat Earth and don't work with the globe, but this one, I just can't get over this one, or this one just has to be a globe for me, or whatever you're going to say. But for you to now go back on every single one of them, and then you're doing it in a way that's like, it's so obvious, then people are like, what? You know, like you're bringing up the parallax of the stars and the way that the stars perfectly match the globe. That isn't true. But that just makes you think, it's like, wait, were you not paying attention to all the research that we're doing? Because you're saying that we weren't doing research. And in fact, we were nonstop around the clock doing all kinds of research, breaking all of this down, going head first into all of these claims. This is what the whole thing was at Ether Cause. This is what we did around the clock. Was literally at one point, like in 2024, we're like, okay, what we're going to do this year is we're going to make a list of all of these home run arguments from the globe Earth that they say can't work on a flat Earth. And we're going to take it all away from them. We're going to address them all head on. And we just dove into like satellites and dove into astronomical observations. You know, it's like, apparently you didn't do that. You didn't pay attention to us doing that or whatever, but that's what happened. So like, I just addressed that the stars don't match the globe. That's not true. That's patently false. Let's just talk about it. So like, okay, so perspective does cause things to look like it goes down when it goes away from you. And the stars do that. So like I said,
but at a predictable exact rate. So like if you did that with perspective, you wouldn't get the same, we move 69 miles north, the star drops 1 degree, 69 more miles, 1 degree, 69. That's not how anything perspective works. If you did
that
that
actually isn't even entirely true, right? So there is, so it's claimed to have like a linear 1-to-1 ratio. This actually isn't true though. Like if you actually look at like the celestial navigation, like the manuals, right? You cannot take any of the angles like all the way up to something like 15 degrees and then a few degrees away from 90. You can't even take them. And so actually it's like logarithmic. It actually starts to compress almost like a hyperbolic like geometry. But everyone just says at 69 miles, it just works, and everyone acts like it works. It doesn't. It like factually doesn't. You can't actually use the angles to the stars lower down, meaning as things.
Anyways, this was never addressed, and what's frustrating is I'm assuming that in his mind he just assuming I can't be correct about this, and then waiting for like someone like McToon or someone to address it. And I hate to see him go down that route. Like, what has happened, right? Like, that's not, no, go test it yourself. Go see if what I'm saying is true. It is true. When you look at the cell nav manuals and instructions, it tells you not to use those measurements. And it's like, oh, well, that's convenient because if you say, hey, it's a 1-to-1 perfectly linear ratio because we're on a globe and the stars are dropping down because we're moving across a curved surface, and you present it as if it's just this definitive, the stars match the globe perfectly claim, but in reality, they don't. And right where they stop, you just omit it and say, okay, can't use it there. It doesn't work there. And if you look at it, say, oh, well, let's avoid any excuse you're going to come up with. Let's just look at what the evidence is for a second. It's not linear. It's more like logarithmic. And so it actually begins to like compress, meaning that if it's 1 degree per 69 miles, as you get closer to the convergence point or the horizon, then it starts to get squished together. It's not 69 miles per 1 degree. It's less and less and less and less. And this is what we would expect if it's all an optical phenomena and it's due to perspective, and that visual space is actually not linear. It's curved. It's not planar. And it would make sense that it's more drastic if the stars are further away. You're looking further away towards the extremities or limits of your vision as you're looking at the stars, right? Within curved visual space. So it actually perfectly matches, the evidence perfectly matches a planar Earth with curved visual space. And dude, I've never got a rebuttal to this. Man, let me break this down really simple for people. They say that we see in straight lines in plane geometry. That perspective is planar, just perfectly simple straight line, straightforward. But in reality, they're not, because in plane geometry, we know if you have two straight lines, they can go infinitely and they'll never intersect because they're parallel to each other. That's plane geometry. that the parallel lines will never intersect. But when we look at railroad tracks, which are in real physical reality, two parallel lines, as we look off in the distance, our vision, our perspective makes them appear to do something they're not doing in reality, which is converge, showing you that our perspective is not strictly planar. Something as simple as railroad tracks prove it. If we saw in plane geometry, then what we see would adhere to plane geometry. What we see does not do that because we see what is in physical reality, parallel straight lines, appear to do something different than they are doing in real physical reality and appear to converge. That's because perspective, the way that we see the world, specifically, the closer we get to the limit of how far we can see, the convergence point, the vanishing point, the horizon, the closer we get to that point, the less it matches what's actually there. Okay, now if we take that to the sky, okay, if we don't see in plane geometry and there's more curved visual space and things compress into the distance, into the vanishing point, and we have some limit to our perspective, the other side says we see in perfect straight lines forever, infinitely, and that there's no limit. And then we see railroad tracks converge. And they just make a correction and act like that makes sense. Then we would expect to see, while we're looking at the stars, which are pretty far away, and they can be far away and still not be millions of miles away, that we're looking as far as we can see, there, that as you get towards that vanishing point, you're going to start to see them deviate further and further away from like physical reality, like a planar physical reality. That's what we see. And to actually go navigate on the water in the world using the sky, you have to account for this and disregard the measurements down close to the horizon at all. Like much higher above the horizon than should be the case if it's just because of quote unquote refraction, astronomical refraction, you know, refraction of lights coming from billions of miles away or whatever, right? And even up towards 90, which there should be no refraction. I explained the point pretty thoroughly there so that whenever you hear me say it again, I'm not going to explain it anymore. But just notice that that point never gets addressed, nor was it even engaged with in good faith. Like, wait. Okay, what do you mean exactly? Blah, blah, blah.
Get closer and closer to the horizon.
And again, this is my refutation of his claim that it perfectly matches the sky, perfectly matches the sphere. The sky perfectly matches the sphere. It doesn't.
Right?
Just pay attention to that. Claim it perfectly matches the sphere. Direct refutation, even to his specific example of 1 degree per 69 miles. And just see if you hear that phrase again. See if you hear that claim again, that it perfectly matches the sphere despite direct refutation.
Claim linear ratio doesn't happen at all. And I'll just make a bigger claim though, because I don't want to get lost. What I'm saying is it is special pleading in that we're claiming the exception to a universal principle, which is everywhere else. When we look, we know that because of perspective, that things get further away, they appear to go down, right? And we see the sky appear to go down, but the globe is claiming, so yeah, it has the same effect as perspective, but it isn't because of perspective. It's because we're physically changing our orientation, right? We agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I just want to know if you're talking about if perspective is a mathematical equation, is there a formula for perspective?
Well, that's a good question, right? People do use a formula for perspective, but I don't agree with it. And so if you actually look into it, it's well known that like visual space is much more complex than this really rudimentary trigonometry that people try to use, assuming that there's linear visual space. And this has been tested and written about at some of the highest levels all the time.
Do you think if we went to 25 degrees north and then we kept going 1 degree or north each time, so we get up to 45 degrees, are you saying that the star wouldn't adjust by exactly that amount of degrees based on if we go 69 miles north, 69 again, say we do it 10 times, it's 690 degrees, 10 steps, so that way, so the North Star would be 10 degrees different. You agree with that?
It will be, yeah, it'll be very close. It will not be exact. And
if you're 25 and 45 degrees, it should be close, right? Because you're not in the refraction zones.
Okay, so that's what you're saying. Let's make sure everyone understands this. Conveniently, we call the refraction zone all the way up to like 15 degrees or more above the horizon, because what actually happens is the stars start to act way different, right? I mean, that's 15 degrees is super high above the horizon, right?
I agree.
No, but the stars start acting different. Well, this is what like hyperbolic visual space would predict. It would be a logarithmic relationship. So like on the globe, it's very simple. We're saying on a globe, there's basically nothing between us and the stars. They're super far away. So the only reason the stars look like they change positions because we're tipping over. But that's actually not what we observe in reality. All the way 15 degrees or more, we start to see them start to compress and get logarithmic, meaning that the way that they change is exponentially different. And even all the way up.
And just to give you guys a bit of an update here, like some idea was because like this celestial theodolite argument came up quite a bit, and we have like all like 48 specifically the boys in either cause have compiled like the whole like 48 different independent measurements, and they all are showing that it doesn't match the globe, and they all match the flat earth, and the Globers can't even come up with a response, and it's a major issue. That argument comes up in this debate. I thought it would be cool because apparently what's happened since then is just nuh-uh. And I was just going to let you guys see the receipts, but actually in retrospect, because we're already so far behind and we still have so much to go, it would make this stream so freaking long. So honestly, I'm just going to kind of try to review it and do so kind of quickly.
Towards 90. So you're told specifically not to utilize those. So we can say it's refraction. But that's not even like a realistic or viable explanation, like 15 degrees. So conveniently, the difference in the linear perspective and a hyperbolic perspective, it's a wash, right? According to the globe, it just conveniently, we're going to change that range and not use it. We're not going to use the range that would be different between a linear and a hyperbolic visual space.
But that's also the place where refraction would cause issues with the observations of stars?
15 degrees above the horizon?
Sure. I mean, if you're looking out in a direction, that's not very high, and that's where all the atmosphere is, right? So you're going to be looking through the
That is way too high.
most amount of atmosphere at about 10 to 15 degrees from the ground. That's where you're going to have.
You would have the most at 1 degree. You would have the most right by the ground, not at 15 degrees.
If again, I'm saying if refraction is true.
But yeah, that is where like refraction would be the most as you get closer to the ground. Yes. Also, if you have curved visual space, you'd see the compression the most at the ground. If it was like logarithmic, you'd have this big area in the middle and between the extremities where it would be somewhat linear. What do you know? What a convenient cover. Refraction is like their god. And it's like not ever properly defined or anything like that, right? They don't actually account. They're like refraction. Okay, so what? Then I'm assuming you accounted for like pressure and temperature and stuff. No, not at all. But it's like it's perfect because what the claim is, it's just to explain that what you're seeing is not actually there. And so for this whole argument to be like, we see 24-hour sun, there's no way that the earth can be flat, right? And then they're like, it's so insane to say that the sun's in an apparent position. Dude, to believe in the globe at all, you have to constantly claim that what we see is not actually there. That's like your whole position for everything, not just a single thing, which is going all the way out to like the most extreme parts of the earth, all the way to the extremity, all the way out to Antarctica, and then trying to figure out exactly why we see the sky as we do. It's not the same as literally everything having to, not be the way the evidence is actually presented.
Which I believe that it is. And then you just have to say, well, that's what the globe is saying, is that the reason that the stars get mushed together is because they are being refracted, or they kind of disappear, they kind of get faded in that area. So again, I don't know if that's really, because I'm saying—
I'm not sure do you guys like this more?
And away from 90, and then we could, if that's working perfectly as a sphere, that'd be really weird that works as a sphere, but not the 15 degrees that we have left to go. So, I mean, you could just keep doing that one section that you have, and you would be able to figure out that the Earth is 24,901 miles around, simply because you can keep going north, and you would always get 1 degree every 600 miles. So I see what you're saying. I mean, again, you're just going to claim that that's, I'll have to look into what exactly the formula is, because I do know that refraction does break down as well. Not refraction, sorry. The perspective breaks down close to you and far away from you.
It does because of the way that everyone tries to use like linear geometry for perspective. So like,
so for me, it's obviously between this one, and this one. And I would say probably this one.
It's just an assumption, but this has actually been written about for decades, and it just people don't even want to go touch it. And like, I've done a stream on this, right? It's a very basic way to disprove.
John, Jeran, Effie, Dave, Witsit versus Michael Sartain, Witsit. I wasn't in that, but I was trying to set up a debate with Sartain for a while. He was acting like he wanted to, and then when I approached him directly, I almost debated him in person. So we may end up doing something like that. He may be able to go to DebateCon or something like that. But didn't really keep the same energy in DMs as he did on that podcast with Zerka. Just talking reckless. I'm like, hit me in the mouth or something. It's like, all right, bro, let's hang out. The thing about podcasts are, you can kind of position the height of your seat however you would like, right? And then no one really knows what's going on. So, and, I will say, I may have hands. I will just say, I I really encourage people, and we'll talk more about this because I'm going to be streaming a lot, but like definitely should join our community, and definitely consider getting the courses I'm putting together and I'm going to release, because I just like became obsessed with how's the body work, health, so the people that are trying to lose weight, people that are trying to gain muscle mass, people that have health issues and like are trying to do parasitic cleanses, or trying to get rid of like different health and skin issues and ailments and all these different gut biome issues. And, trying to find the best diet and the best whatever, right? And I swear I hit the sweet spot. I started working out, and I was like getting much bigger at like an abnormally fast pace. Obviously 100% natural, right? And dude, I just got a little carried away, and I was like really into a workout, and I was like lifting way too heavy, way too hard. And dude, I just like my shoulder, which I tore all the way back in high school football, went and played on my scholarship in college, and messed it up even more in college. Never got surgery, refused to get surgery, never got it fixed. It's been messed up like my whole adult life. And I just destroyed it. And so I couldn't even work out, and I just like lost all of the gains. It's so bad, but I've like slowly rehabbed it and gotten it back to where it's like pretty good. I'm not getting surgery on my shoulder at this point. And maybe I would almost have to, like, it's like it healed in a messed up way. I don't know. I'm happy to hear people's take on that. I'm just like be super salty about having surgery and being out of like not being able to do anything for so long. I don't want to do that. So I'm trying to do like, I'm not going to just take over the stream with this, but I'm trying to rehab my shoulder, and I've gotten it pretty good now where I've started like working out again, and I'm going to start getting bigger pretty quick. But I would just say I have done an insane amount of research and testing with all kinds of stuff. And I can tell you how to get big fast, how to get muscle fast, like optimal diet, how to do lots of things. Right. And how to feel way better, have way more energy, to sleep way better, to not need as much sleep, everything. It's pretty crazy. It's obviously a huge rabbit hole to try to figure out how to actually be healthy. But, and obviously a big component of it is just not eating all the time. So anyway, we're going to create a community. The VIPs that went to the summit, you got a free month. Technically, I hate to say this because like it's not really built right now. I don't know what's up. I'll try and drop like we'll maybe wait till the next we'll wait till the next stream. Everyone that's VIP, check your emails over the next day. You're going to receive like your free month to go join it. And we're creating like a Witsit Gets It community as well. And so you'll have like basically social media like feeds and chats, challenges, meetups, private calls, all these things. So yeah, same thing with ever fasting. Anyway, I'm super excited, and then I'm going to be collabing with different people, and we're going to go through like, okay, what are you eating, doing, drinking, using, cosmetically and all, like to clean, and what's your like routine? What are you doing, right? That's maybe making you not feel the best or not be healthy or whatever. And dude, I'm just telling you, we got the freaking glitch. If you want to lose some weight, if you need to lose weight or a lot of weight, I got you. If you need to build muscle mass quickly, I got you. If you need to just get rid of ailments and illnesses, I got you. And the only reason I felt compelled to do this is it's like a super saturated market. And it's just like, was there's so much misinformation. And because almost everything you'll find on the internet is going to be built upon these pseudoscience models, like all the intricacies within biology and cellular biology and viruses and all the stuff that they claim the way it works, and not understanding like the true etheric component of everything. We have the glitch, like we got the secret sauce for sure, 100%. And it's like way faster results to just like optimal health and longevity and stuff like that. So it's pretty exciting. I'm excited. But anyway, we're not talking about that anymore. I'll see you guys in there if you're cool. Whatever. I know how I got on that.
This idea, because when we look at railroads, we know that they're physically parallel in reality, but they look like they converge.
It started. I remember now that started with the super chat talking about Sartain, and I was talking about how he was acting all tough and like he wanted to fight. And he's not like a small guy or anything, but he's like, I guess he's like short. And I'm like, dude, I might have hands. I might be getting really big in the next couple months now that I've healed my shoulder. But anyway, thanks for super chat. Black Pillar. Throughout my lifetime, I've seen people change religion. One thing they have never done is put down their previous belief or followers. Something else caused the change. I think he thinks he's wrong about it, and it wasn't like really working out for him in some ways anyway. Actually, this may not be popular or whatever. Like, I think Jeran truly believes what he's saying. I think that he then was like, wow, I'm really embarrassed. I was wrong about this the whole time. And I wasn't just wrong like in private and told some of my friends. I like made it kind of my whole identity, had a channel, told the whole world, tried to convince people of it, and was showing everyone that map. And he feels some type of obligation to come say, this map doesn't work. I was wrong. Don't teach your children that. Don't be sharing that. That's not true. And part of him wants to kind of like, now that he's done it, like prove he's not wrong. So, that's what I think about it. I know maybe some of the conspiracies could be true. I'm not inclined to believe them. I've seen people change all kinds of things. I was raised Christian my entire life, and then woke up to all kinds of deceptions within modern Christianity, completely rejected it, and then ended up finding out the scriptures are actually true and totally messed with it. So I'm not sure what you mean by you've never seen people turn their back on their religion and their belief. Like, I've seen it all the time. Now, I will say the follower aspect is a big component of it. And one of the big parts of why I stepped away is like everything happened at once. I knew I was supposed to step away, but it was like I didn't want that to cloud any of my decision making. Like, oh, I have followers online and they expect me to talk about this, so I just stepped away, like completely. Like I took a huge break to like prove to myself and just in general that it's nothing to do with that for me. I'm just gonna keep it 1,000. We're referring to Jeran, yeah, I know. Also, Black Pillar, Jeran did a death blow to Globe video. Can he defend them against you? Oh, I don't know. You're saying like defend one of his old videos? Maybe. I will say I'm not interested in just like tons and tons of ongoing content talking to Jeran about this. I don't want it to go somewhere that I would rather avoid. But I'll check the poll and then maybe we'll do a 2.0. I wonder what the results of the poll are. Only 58%, so almost 500 votes. Only 58% say yes. 42% say no. I shouldn't debate him again. Very interesting.
Okay, but according to planar geometry, they don't ever converge. They're just parallel. So
Right.
if we were seeing in planar geometry, we would see them just remain parallel. So obviously there's a difference between how we see in actual plane geometry, right? Because it's converging. They appear to converge. And what they end up saying is, oh, well, we have a formula for that. Yeah, you made a corrective adjustment to the trigonometry because planar geometry doesn't work. And this has been like a well-known problem. It's just like the elephant in the room in any discussion about visual space. And I will say they actually recently had to address it because they were utilizing planar geometry for perspective with robotics, which required extreme precision, and the robots were off. They couldn't accurately position things even in small rooms because it was such a precise need of visual alignment. So they actually had to start to integrate like hyperbolic visual space. So now
Type 2 lost 35 pounds. Type 2 lost 35 pounds. Blood sugar 95 on low carb. Hands used to hurt, all gone. Okay, I will go ahead and say, like, for sure, in my opinion, the optimal diet is animal-based, and it's red meat, fruits, and I would say that's your carbs. Eat as many fruits as you want. I mean, that's all that was in the garden, I would say. Anyway, you can just tell, like, the creator made fruits to taste incredible. They're like nature's dessert. So anyway, fruits and honey as like your carbs, and then raw milk, raw cheese, right? So lots of ground beef and steaks, like 100% grass-fed, grass-finished, raw milk, raw cheese, fruits. This is what I eat. And then honey, and it's like, sweet potato, technically, basically, sweet potato's like not that bad. Some things you wouldn't realize are fruits like avocado, fruit, etc. You can still have like a pretty good diet. And sea salt is obviously good. And then not eating a couple hours before you go to sleep, not eating right when you wake up, eating like kind of in circadian rhythm, time restricted eating. But anyway, so like eliminating all of those processed foods is the first thing. Like, so the first thing would be dictating how long you're eating and doing time restricted window, cutting out processed foods, maybe flip those around, like cut out the processed foods, just eat whole foods, and then control when you're eating into a window. Just those two things alone, and you're going to see major changes. You cut out a lot of carbs, all of this like processed bread and seed oils and all the stuff that people are eating, and you do like very low carb. If you're like fruits, meat, honey, raw milk, I mean, these are delicious things. You are going to lose a lot of fat. You're going to lose a lot of fat, get a lot of energy, lose a lot of elements. Like that's what's going to happen. That's what happens to everyone I've encountered that actually does it. So I totally believe you. And honestly, just like controlling how much you eat and then occasionally fasting is going to make a lot of the stuff go away as well. It's so hard to get liver down. Yeah. Yeah. I know they make like supplements though. All right.
Now we have a huge situation where we're assuming that we see in straight lines on a globe, and we map the whole globe out that way. And if we actually see with curved visual space, right there, if perspective is not perfectly linear, the globe can't be true. Like on space, because that's like every angle measurement, the way the entire globe model is set up, it's based on assumed straight lines that we see in. So we actually don't even see that way. And
So you're saying that we see curved lines to the stars?
I'm saying that like the collective visual space itself, yes, like starts towards the bottom. What happens is the extremities, so like towards as far as you can see, when you get closer and closer to the limit of how far you can see, you start to have like an actual curved convergence.
But we don't see that with the stars, right?
We do see that with the stars.
You see how like good faith I'm being? I'm like fully trying to explain it. I'm not in like cutthroat debate mode at all.
That's why even in the manuals, they say don't even take the measurements like up to like 15 meters.
So I meant, do we see, you were talking about like railroad tracks converging in the distance. So things as they go away from us converge, but stars don't do that. Is what I'm saying. The stars.
Oh, no, yeah, they definitely don't do it like the rate. If they do, it's like hard to even notice at all for sure. But that's why I did immediately concede that, yes.
But you can't really tell all the way down at the extremities where it gets logarithmic and you have the convergence into the vanishing points. But stars are clearly further away. They are different. The sky is different, but they still do the same general effect that perspective does to everything else, which is as you get away, they appear to go down. So you have to make the claim that everything else in reality does that, but the stars don't. Very simple logical extension that the stars just don't do it at the same rate because they're further away and beyond the extremities of your vision. It makes perfect sense. If we were to make a list of predictions based on understanding this, and we would go out and see that reality coincidentally matches it. And it can actually make sense of the fact that, for example, railroad tracks are actually parallel in reality. They're perfectly straight, perfectly parallel, are never going to intersect. Railroad tracks don't eventually intersect. They're parallel. They claim that we see in plane geometry just straight lines, which means if we're looking at straight lines that are parallel, if we see in straight lines, we should just see them remain straight. We don't see that. They appear to converge as if they're not in plane geometry, even though they are. So what we see with perspective doesn't match what is actually there, nor does it match perfectly straight lines or plane geometry. But to claim the globe, you have to believe that we see infinitely far with no limit in perfectly straight lines forever, and that perspective's not affecting the position of the stars at all. And the only thing that's making them change as we get further away from them or closer to them is that we are tipping backwards or tipping forwards in relation to them. as we walk across a giant curved surface. And therefore, you have to claim the stars are infinitely far away. And so then to claim that, you have to claim there's basically nothing in between us and them to even in theory be able to see it. If there was any type of medium between us and them and they're infinitely far away, how could you see them from that far away? That's literally how they discovered and came up with the claim that space is like a vacuum. It was like the only way to even make sense trying to save this idea of a globe and create it. You had to claim that perspective is not affecting the position of the stars. The stars are insanely far away. Like, we'll just treat them as all infinitely far away. And therefore, there basically has to be nothing out there for us to be able to see them from that far away, or we wouldn't even be able to claim that this is possible. That's not science. That's not evidence. They didn't go test it. They didn't go discover it. It was just a requirement to even reify the model that you're creating. The other side says, we know perspective does this. We know we're using perspective to look at the sky. We see them do the same thing that happens with perspective. It would be special pleading to claim an exception to a universal principle, right? And say, oh, this is the one exception, is that the sky doesn't do it. It doesn't. Well, other stuff in the sky does it. So I feel like people listening in good faith understand that, but I do see, for some reason, there's like some disconnect. Sometimes people don't understand that point. It should be a very impactful point if you understand it.
The sky isn't just like very basic, but they're in like a different realm almost, right? We don't, regardless of what you think about the Earth, it's well known that what happens in the sky is like something totally different, right? Like we don't know. Like, according to the globe, it's pretty crazy as well. It's actually, I would say, much crazier. I'm not claiming to know exactly how the sky works, and I'm also acknowledging that,
and more so just that it's far away.
Perspective is not exactly like this one-to-one. I don't even believe that it is linear. The evidence shows on the Earth that perspective is not that way. So now if we're going to add way more distances to the stars, right, we have to account for curved visual space.
Let me just say, so you understand my position too, is I'm not buying into any of the other stuff yet. That all takes being convinced like I was of the sphere. So everything else is on the table, but the sphere is not something at this point that I think can be changed. Nothing's going to come out that now the sphere doesn't work anymore. It's the Earth is mapped as a sphere. It operates as a sphere. Again, yeah, is it flat locally? Yes. So do we treat the Earth like it's flat? So it doesn't surprise me anymore that we have manuals saying treat the Earth as a flat, motionless plane, because that's what you do. If you did anything else, you would crash, because you don't need to do that. The Earth is so big, we just don't have any understanding of spheres that are large enough that are in the entire world. I want to show this real quick.
Like, these are just claims. That's kind of my issue, right? I mean, I know he's just saying it, like, he's also kind of just saying it in good faith. This is what he truly how he truly understands it. But like, in terms of like logic and debate, you can't just say it. That's exactly how it would be. Is it? That's incorrect, bro. Like, if I'm shooting a radio wave, for example, right, and I'm going to shoot a super high frequency microwave, if I'm going to keep it super straight and point it out line of sight at something, hundreds of miles away or dozens of miles away even, it's going to get blocked by a curved Earth. It's super coherent and concentrated little beam that goes straight. So it's going to get blocked. So no, we wouldn't just do that like the Earth was flat. We absolutely would not do that. But when we do it, it works as if it's just flat and it's just going parallel to the flat ground, far beyond what a curved Earth would allow. This happens over and over and over, bro. Same thing with flying a plane. How would flying a plane and then coming in for your descent angle be exactly the same? How would my buddy in the Air Force look at a mountain range 300 miles away that has an elevation of 28,000 feet while they're flying at 28,000 feet altitude and using manual optics and radar corroborating each other? They're eye level with them. When on a globe, they should be multiple degrees below them. Everything's not just exactly the same. Now, I can see, you can say that the manuals would just say it. Sure, the argument is that it simplifies the math and it's the same for intents and purposes on this smaller local application, and you're just treating it in little segments. I get the argument, but things are not just the same. And in fact, if it were actually flat, but you were trying to make it a globe, you would have to treat the Earth like it's flat when you do these things. Then you would actually have to come up with reasons why you can just do it on the globe, even though it's not actually flat, right? Like, if the Earth were flat and you were trying to make it a globe, but in order to do things in real life and not die and for things to actually work, you have to treat it like it's flat. And every time you assume curvature, it doesn't work. Battle of the Beams, World War II, right? And then all of a sudden, when you treat it like it's flat, everything works again. Then regardless of what you think about the Earth, you have to treat it like it's flat or it doesn't work. It's not just that you have to. And so knowing that you have to, but you still having to keep alive the claim that it's a globe or make sense of it, assuming it's a globe. People aren't consciously trying to deceive the world and make it a globe. They truly believe it's a globe, so they're trying to make sense of it. We have to treat it like it's flat, but I believe it's a globe. How does this make sense? So in their opinion, they're discovering things, but what they're doing is desperately coming up with something to confirm their bias, right? And reify their belief system, their model within their belief system. And that's when you start coming up with crazy claims like tropospheric ducting. For 800 consecutive miles, there's some anomalous, very rare temperature inversion layer a couple miles above the ground that traps the waves in. And even though it's super rare and anomalous, it's a whole different temperature inversion layer inverted from what's normally there. It extended for 800 consecutive miles with all that change in weather over the course of that entire distance, so that it just conveniently matches exactly what would happen if it were flat. It's like, all right, bro.
I'll get your answer on this one, Austin. So this is, you can see my screen now that I'm sharing these little things here?
Yeah, actually, I did find out that I can help you share your screen if you want.
Okay, well, I'm all right. I think as long as people can see it. So this was on Twitter.
Well, let me make you bigger then. It's like it's super small, right? So,
but it is kind of serendipitous or whatever you want to call it, that this is the 6th month of the day anniversary of this particular observation. So this is the 24-hour sun on December 14th in Union Glacier. So this is what Austin and I both saw. We both know that we were both there. We both know there was no trickery. There was no funny business. That's the freaking sun. And it does circle your head in Antarctica. So once we see that, something interesting is if we go now to the Google Earth here, you can see that, yeah. So I've got Google Earth pulled up and you'll see up here that I've got the date as 6/14. You can't see that? Oh, it's still about, so we can get this, you can see it. Shoot, hold on, I don't want you to see. Sorry, stop. Okay, let's go with this one instead. That's better. All right, now you can see it up there. All right, so you see at the top here, it says 6/16. I went back 2 days. But you'll notice that this is at the north, at 80 degrees north, so the complete opposite of where we were 6 months ago. And if we play the time lapse, you'll notice that the sun does the exact same thing that we saw it do, only the opposite. It's the opposite direction. And there'll never be a flat model ever in your life or your children's lives that will ever explain this. And it doesn't matter if you say it's personal incredulity, that I don't know how something works, or no, because there's been flat earthers forever, and they've never, not one person, not one entity, not one Daniel Shenton, not one Lady Blount, not one St. Pierre, not one Allen, not one Witsit has ever been able to explain it. So if your level of acceptance of something is you're not allowed to say that it doesn't, just because I don't know how it works. Well, how many people need to say that something doesn't work until we know it doesn't work? Eventually we have to get to the conclusion that something will never work, and we move on from there, and we just leave it. We don't stay on something and say, well, we still think the Earth's flat no matter what, even if it doesn't work. There is a model that very simply says, of course you would see 80 degrees north, the opposite of what you would see 80 degrees south 6 months later, because that's how the globe works. It's what it predicts. It's what it calls for. So, and again, it's the exact same, meaning that if you were to measure the lowest, which looks about right there, the lowest spot in the sky, if you measured that, it'd be 15 degrees. If you notice, it's exactly north. Okay, what I figured out in the south, whoops, didn't mean to move up. What I figured out in the south was by watching the sun, I said, man, every time the sun gets to its lowest position, if I walk towards it, it will adjust up by 1 degree every 69 miles. And we were, remember, it was like 15 miles or 10 degrees low or 15 degrees, wherever it was in the south, and I realized, oh, I bet you we're 790 miles from the pole, because you could just figure that out by how many times do I need to go towards the sun till it, sorry, it was at 15 degrees, but by going towards it, it's going to lift. And every time it lifts 69 miles, you would do it 10 times, it would lift 690 times, or 690 miles you'd travel, and that's where the South Pole is. Because what that would do is raise that sun to 25 degrees, and then what would that move the 35 degrees behind me to? 25 degrees. There's only one place on the Earth that would allow the sun to go around you and stay at the same height the whole time. That is the North and South Pole. And that is what we saw, 15 degrees and 35, but now I can infer from that there's a South Pole. We know the South Pole's there. Flat Earth wants to keep pretending that it might not be, which is them creating a paradoxical world where we have a North Pole, and underneath it, we have a North Celestial Pole, underneath it we have a North Pole, we have a South Celestial Pole, which is exactly 180 degrees from the North Celestial Pole. What's below it? Flat Earthers will never answer that, because it completely destroys the model. You can't say there's a South Pole, because on a flat map, everywhere is the South Pole. The South Pole is in all directions and everywhere. So my question to you, Austin, is with this, I get what you're saying, where you're saying, well, no, you're just claiming that we don't know how a flat model works. So at what point do we...
Like, there's just so many, like, false assumptions and claims in here, right? Like, first of all, like, the acknowledgement that the Earth measures flat doesn't require really many other additional claims. Okay, but if we were to entertain them, right? I mean, you could actually have two literal physical poles on a plane, like magnetohydrodynamics works, right? We see that electric fields, magnetic fields work this way. So that's obviously a possibility. And you have quadrupoles, you have all kinds of things. You're saying that we know there's a South Pole. You're just saying that, though. We didn't go to what's allegedly claimed as the South Pole. So I don't agree with you. You know, you're saying there has to be, because we went that way and we saw the sun. And if we kept going, logically, there would have to be South Pole because we saw the stars look like they're spinning over a certain point. It's like, okay, well, we saw the stars look like a counter rotation out in that direction. And again, this would also be explained with two poles, right? Now, people can say that there are other problems with the two poles, and maybe so, right? I've seen a lot of answers for lots of things there. And so it's interesting. But there has to be South Pole in all directions south of the north. It's like, no, that's not how magnets work. So really the North Pole would be up, now, of course, you're talking about geographic, but let's be real here, right? Like, we live in a torus field. So the North Pole would actually, and I've been trying to say this for a few years, it is like seemingly overlooked by lots of people, would be up in the sky. And the South Pole would be way down beneath you, right? And you would be in a torus field inside of that. So then you would just have basically, you would have convergence in the center, right? And it would actually diverge out from the center, and then it would begin to converge back in all around the outsides, doing this right here. So if you get all the way to the outside, right, you're going to be within, and again, I think there really could be like a kaleidoscope type effect out towards the extremities. I don't think that's crazy at all. So, the thing is that the major disconnect for me here, it's like, this is what I hate the most about the way flat Earth is being sold to people. It's like, here's the AE map, here's the replacement model. It's like, dude, guys, don't listen to anyone telling. That's not what flat Earth really is. That's like a very convenient cover story to strawman flat Earth, and therefore be able to get a lot of people to dismiss it when you should not be dismissing it. Because the truth is, the globe model, when scrutinized and tested, falls apart. The Earth measures flat. And now we need to step back and be like, we can only address what we know. And this assumption that we can holistically and perfectly describe the Earth in its entirety and how everything works and the whole sky works in relation to it is an absurd assumption. I'm not anywhere close to making that assumption. I don't even think you can. I don't think you can fully figure it out at all. I think that they can't even explain to you how a magnet works in 2025, a magnet the size of this case in 2025, but you're going to know how the magnetic field of the entire Earth works. Like, all right, bro, right? It's so much deeper than kind of this very reductionist, materialistic approach to the discussion about the Earth. That's my main beef, actually, with this situation.
Throw the flat model away if we've now falsified it, technically, in the way that at least the map that you don't ascribe to. But do you understand that there's no other map ever coming? That there's no other, the AE map is the continents laid out correctly, with the tropics laid out correctly, with the equator laid out correctly. Those are not movable because they're not man-made. They are features of the place that we live. The sun for the south, tropic Capricorn, for the north, Cancer, and the equator is where it's above on the equinox. So my question is, if there's never going to be another map, and the flat Earth map has been falsified, then what is your hope by staying a flat Earther? Where do you think, what's going to happen? How could that ever be answered? It would have to be, number one, we create a new map, which is impossible because the continents are laid out correctly. That's the AE map. Or we figure out there's a magic formula of repeating suns and duplicating suns. So is that really what you're hoping for, is some sort of miracle? Or do you understand that you'll never explain it? Because it hasn't been explained in hundreds of years, if not thousands.
Okay. You said a lot, right? So
we can take it slow. I just want to know, what is your, do you acknowledge that in the north right now, today at 80 degrees north, they would be seeing the inverse and complete opposite of what we saw?
Yeah, I see.
I deeply wish that Witsit understood, or deeply understood, Lindsay's model, dual cell toroid model. The issue is, I've tried to talk to him about it, and like, he just won't explain it in any intelligible way. He won't answer my questions directly, and he just starts telling me like all kinds of like very philosophical, metaphysical claims, and the Bible really means this, and like, in response to very direct questions about his model or idea, he'll say stuff like, the sun is gold and the moon is silver. I'm like, bro, okay, but I'm asking about, So I'll try to understand more of what he's saying. I'm definitely very interested with any type of like dual cell toroid models. Interesting for sure.
It seems that way. Now, I mean, we did one trip and we saw one location, but it was pretty close to matching. Like, I don't even think it actually matched perfectly some of the elevation angles, but pretty close. Sure. But here's the thing, right? For one, it's like, how are we even determining what is the opposite? Like, what are we talking about right now? Right? We're talking about a model. And so you're bringing up the AE map. The AE map uses the same fictitious observer in the center that the globe does. You actually have to just assume the center of a globe, use a fictitious observer, and then look at the sky, and you're actually going to map out this projection. If you're talking about the South Pole, if I were to take the center point and move it over 5 or 10 degrees, now everything changes drastically, right? We don't even have the same positioning to observe the sun at all as the AE map because it's just a projection. They both have fictitious observers. This isn't just some like way to get out of it. It's very important. It's very important to understand that these are just maps and projections and models that use fictitious observers and assumptions for convenience sake. We then did this over the course of time, and now we have like generally what we observe matches our map or our model. And you keep saying like you keep bringing up the AE map as if like I'm supposed to answer for that, and you say, well, are you expecting to have some other? For one, if you wanted to play the projection game, you can move stuff around and get a bipolar. If you take that away from the South and move it in, you get like a bipolar projection, and you would say, well, then how would this work on the bipolar? And you're going to try to critique it. Well, they're all just projections. I don't reify and treat any of those as if they're real. I know that they're not. They're just projections, and they all have issues, and you make consistent refractive corrections. And this is very important because this kind of got lost with the first one. We're talking about the refractive conditions required for, let's say, celestial navigation for CELNAV. You have to use planar corrections, actual empirical measurements, then correct to even try to get the refraction. And you don't just use like Snell's law. We use planar measurements, then correct, and we can't even actually use this 1 degree per 69 miles, which is such a slam dunk for the globe. It's the complete opposite. That doesn't actually happen in reality. And then to try to make the corrections for refraction, we don't use like typical refraction. We then actually have to account for planar geometry to even do it, right? So, and then that kind of spills right over to, well, then we definitely can't have a situation where when we look at the star and we see the position of it in relation to a mountaintop, we take a planar geometry measurement to that. As soon as the stars are occulted by the mountain, we're like, okay, because this is what it's all about. You're talking about this proves.
Let me specify so people understand that part right there. It's like, again, the 1 degree per 69 miles doesn't actually happen in reality. Conveniently, it looks logarithmic, which is what we would expect with curved visual space. And so as it gets towards, like, say, the horizon and towards the 90 degrees, it all begins to get like closer together in really simple terms. Instead of like an evenly spaced, like make sure everyone understands, right? You have like 1 degree, you have 360 degrees in a circle. So you have 360 little marks, right? That give you a degree each. And so as you go every like roughly 70 miles on the Earth, according to the globe, every 69 miles, the stars are going to go down 1 degree, 1 degree, 1 degree, right? And they're saying that's because the Earth's a sphere. And look, it does that. But what they leave out conveniently until we go research and deep dive and find this out is that if you assume it's going to go 1 degree, 1 degree, 1 degree, as you get down towards around 15 degrees above the horizon, it doesn't work at all. It all compresses together. And as you get up to directly above you, which is where there should be like no refractive effects, it doesn't work there either. Well, if we aren't actually seeing in perfectly straight line perspective, we would expect that. We would expect there's a huge area in the middle that is basically a linear 1-to-1 relationship. So meaning it's just consistent spacing. But as you get towards the edges, it would become like logarithmic, meaning that it starts to change at a different rate, a more progressive rate, and converge. That's what we actually see. That doesn't match their claim or position at all. So what do they try to do? They say, oh, well, that's just refraction. Okay. The issue is, then you're like, okay, support that claim, I guess, if that's what you're saying is going on. Let's hear it. I'm open to it. So refraction. So, okay, you would be using like pressure and temperature and stuff like that, right? No, they just actually take the physical measurements and then correct for them, the actual physical empirical measurements, taking a flat baseline and then just put them in, because it isn't refraction. They're not actually saying, oh, look at the pressure and temperature differentials here and closer to the ground, and therefore we have this much refraction. They can't do that. So they actually use like empirical. That's our argument, is that the way that the sky and vision works in relation to a planar Earth, if you take actual measurements, then because of the way our perspective works, it's going to compress towards this. What you're using our argument, turning around and claiming it's refraction, but not even using like pressure and temperature and the actual refractive characteristics that you would use. You're not even using the right variables. That's factually what they do to make the corrections in the CELNAV, because it doesn't match the globe's assumed 1 degree per 69 miles. These are points, though, that, realistically, I said a lot there. He's not really catching all that. That's a lot to be thrown at him when he doesn't know all of it. Also, to be fair, so that's just not going to be addressed at all. Realistically, the theme of this debate is like most of my points weren't addressed,
a globe because the sun's right here, right? And it's based on the position on the globe. It's the same
He
thing,
may feel
celestial
that way.
observation.
I was
see a star go
actively
behind the
trying
mountain,
to.
it gets occulted. I immediately take the time, right? And then if I go into Solarium, you brought that up. Well, that's just like a globe. Why are you using that? That's the whole point. We're using the globe to see what the actual prediction should be, right? To falsify it. And it uses the same fictitious central observer again. But like when we're on top of that mountaintop, we look at the time, it matches the perfect planar geometry measurement. Meaning if I'm on a flat earth and I stand right here, I look at a mountain, the star gets occulted by the mountain, and I take an angle to the top of that mountain. If I go stay on top of that mountain and take another measurement to that star, it'll actually make a straight line.
Okay, because we're so far behind. So now where I'm making this point here, I'm going to skip over it because I'm going to have like Alan and Shane, and maybe we can actually do a presentation where we go through the whole thing. And the guy who actually came up with the method and made the measurements, there's like 49 measurements. There's a chart, even giving them refraction, which they don't actually get. It's not a good argument at all for this, right? Because it's about occultation. Even if you grant it to them and put it all on a chart and you look at the flat earth prediction and the globe earth prediction, it's like always within just like a % of the flat earth prediction. And it's way off the globe prediction every time, even with refraction. And they have no rebuttal for it. They have no rebuttal. And so basically, very simply, it's like you see where a star is, and then it's about to be occulted by a mountain, and you take basically an angle measurement from where you're standing on the ground to that top of that mountain. You extend it all the way up to the star. So you basically have a point on the ground, a line to the point on the mountain, and then a line from that point up to the star. And it makes a perfectly straight line that comes down at an angle to a flat baseline. And if you go check where that star should be from the mountain, that angle matches up to the one on the ground as if the baseline was flat, right? But on the globe, it should be different. It should be in a different position. But we look at the actual stellarium data, which is supposedly for the globe. We use that data to actually falsify the globe. It doesn't work. It doesn't match the globe prediction at all. But consistently, it's matching the flat earth prediction, meaning if we assume the earth is flat, we're going to know the angle and time at which that star will be occulted by the mountain, and it keeps on doing that. It keeps being occulted when it's supposed to if the earth is flat, not when it's a globe, every time, over and over and over and over. It's a major problem. Right? Even claiming refraction is just so goofy. It's like, oh, how convenient, right? Like the refraction is just working in all these scenarios. Each time we test it, however much is needed for that totally different angle and totally different observation. It's just stupid anyway. And it's about an occultation of the star. But even in addition to that, we grant it to you, which you can't have. It still doesn't work at all. It isn't enough. So it's a major problem. We'll let the guy who actually came up with the method and put together a whole entire spreadsheet with all the measurements and went out and did it and all of that. We'll let him come present it with a bunch of people from either cause, and we'll just kind of break that down for everyone because they have not been able to rebut it yet. It's been actually going on for a while now, and they've all got together trying to figure out how they can say it's refraction. They can't come up with anything.
Down from star to mountain to observe.
And I brought this up because he keeps bringing up how supposedly the sky matches the globe. I know people are like, oh, this was all a distraction from how what's in the sky doesn't matter. It's like, well, no, he keeps claiming that the sky matches the globe, and it doesn't. And that's why I came up.
4901, that's the whole sphere. You're saying because,
right? Like,
yeah, I mean, I think that's a kind of a new thing that I think that people are working through right now. I don't fully understand it because of the fact that you're using stellarium, which is giving you the curved Earth angles, correct? It's not giving you flat Earth angles, it's giving you curved Earth angles. But you're saying
we're using stellarium to falsify the globe.
You're taking a location from...
We're using that to show you that the globe model prediction doesn't match the actual observational data.
Where stellarium is not even talking about. You're further back than that, right? Stellarium is just telling you where the mountain top to the star is. Is that correct?
Yeah,
and
yes.
You're drawing your location back here and saying, oh, now if we draw an angle to that mountain top. Right? So you're kind of adding something that stellarium is not accounting for.
No, what, dude? Like we're taking that position on the mountain and we're comparing it to reality where we're at on the ground, and it's matching the flat Earth, not the globe. We'll get visuals and have it fully explained.
That's the whole point. Is like the one measurement you're taking is you're standing there, you're looking at the star, you're looking at the mountain. Once the star's occulted by the mountain, boom, write the time down. Okay.
So why wouldn't refraction come into play? I don't understand what you mean by that.
Because, okay, well now the star's occulted. We're accounting for the position of the star once we're not even seeing it. It's occulted. So how are we going to say the position of the star is because it's being refracted? It's not. It's about
going to be somewhere. So when we see the sun set, they say that it's actually still above the horizon, right? It's gone, but it's still there. Or whatever, it's always somewhere about a half a degree off of where we think. So that would be the same with stars, meaning that if you're counting when a star gets occulted by a mountain, it would make a difference as to where it's refracted to. Is it refracted above the mountain, below the mountain? Is it? I would think that would matter, but it doesn't matter in your case because you're not actually taking any information from the location that you're at.
He doesn't get it.
Stellarium's not taking that into account.
We're going to skip over this.
Stellarium doesn't know that you're taking an observation.
We're going to cover
Um,
that, though.
I do think, Austin, one thing that
My plan was actually to have the boys come on, and then we got started late, and they weren't able to join. So
maybe I'll find something specific for you. But I think that you need to watch my show. I get it. I do too many live streams. You don't want to watch it. I get it. But it's also the same thing that every other flat earther's done. So all I see is people running around saying, we don't understand what Jeran's doing. We don't understand. But I've literally done an entire series, an unplugged series of 12 episodes, where I went through every single evidence and every single piece and explained it thoroughly. So if people don't understand my position, or why do I just accept refraction? Well, it's because once I saw that the South operates as the globe calls for, and then we saw the sun setting right to left in the South. So that immediately, let me give one example, because I think it's my best proof that nobody's been able to, come up with an answer for. And I didn't even know this. I've never heard a glober say it. But everybody who's in the North, when you look at a sunrise or sunset, so I'm talking about looking east or west only, not north, not south. We're looking at sunrise or sunset. The sun will rise left to right, and it will set left to right in the North for every single person every day of the year, no matter what. End of story. In the South, they see the opposite thing. Okay, so every single sunrise for every single person in the South for every day of the year goes right to left, and every single sunset goes right to left. When we were at Punta Arenas, we saw the sunset severely right to left, way different than we've ever seen before. The sun's never done that to any of us in our lives, because the South is the inverse of the North. Now, get this. This is the paradox of flat Earth. Can an item that's going in one direction be seen by two people looking in the same direction to be going in opposite directions? And I know it sounds convoluted, but if you have two people in the North and the South both looking west at the same sunset, we're talking about the same sunset, can they see it going in opposite directions if the Earth is flat? How would that be possible, right? So you'd have a sun going around, and you'd have people south and north looking west, the sun's setting, so it would always go to the right. On any flat Earth that there'll ever be, it'll go to the right. But we saw it going to the left. Now, here's the crazy thing. Do you know if somebody on the day that we saw the sun set right to left in Punta, if you were in the North, you saw the sun set left to right. So imagine that. We're in the South watching the sun go left. They're in the North watching the sun go right.
Dude, this is not a new thing. And how are you, this is why people are getting frustrated, right? Because they're like, why are you acting like you just found that out? Like, dude, we've already addressed this. It's an optical effect. What a coincidence. It matches dome optics. It actually changes directions within dome optics, which is expected. So we have a curved visual limit. And there seemingly is some type of containment to the Earth. But based on that visual limit, as it moves out away from you, based on where you are, it's going to look like it's going out away from you in a different direction, even when it's not. I've done that in this room with my little dome myself to verify it. And I'm like, once again, blown away. What are the odds that it just perfectly matches with the dome? And so it's like, if you have a hemisphere, right, a dome that we're seeing everything in the sky through, do you not see the extension and connection here where you could then take that, hijack it, and make the earthosphere in a model? If we're within a hemisphere dome and we're viewing everything through those optics, and we're getting further out away from the center, closer and closer to the theoretical edge of that dome, containment of that dome, then you could take what we see inside of that and then say, oh, well, no, that's not there. Don't account for it at all. They have this very materialistic reductionist model, claim that there's nothing out there. The stars super far away. We just see in perfect, really boring, perfect straight lines, which is not how the world works at all. The eyes are the most complex things in the world. We don't even fully understand how they work at all. They're incredible. But no, we can just caveman draw straight lines. That's how perspective works, even though railroads don't work that way, right? Eyes are incredibly complex, as is the mechanism that our eyes use to see anything, light. We're talking about a very, seeing things, how we see things and how we see light is an incredibly profound thing, right? This place was created in a way that's like, I'm going to take this little arrogance right out of you, and you're not even going to be able to fully explain and understand how seeing even works. But these people come around acting like they know exactly how it works, even though they know at the same time they don't know exactly how it works. And then they're claiming light's a particle and a wave simultaneously, paradoxically, even though it's neither. But trust me, bro. And somehow it's sentient, knows you're about to observe it. It turns into whichever one we need at the time. And it physically travels from point A to point B, even though it's anisotropic, meaning that it goes faster in one direction than the other, and it isn't consistent, it isn't constant, and stuff seemingly goes faster than the speed of light. And we have transmissions going 3x the speed of light, 3c. So they're wrong about all light completely, which visible light, that's how we actually see things. And they're wrong about the nature of the light. You're talking about looking at a light with our vision, with an organ, with our eyes, something we just admittedly don't understand. They're so incredibly complex. Inside of the sky, something that we admittedly don't understand, even within their fake fairy tales of going there and all their models, they claim that 96% of it's magic. And we know that, look, just go look out. That's so vast and beyond us. We can't understand it. 3 of the things that are admittedly far beyond our grasp of knowledge as people turn around and act like it's like they know 100% exactly how it works and they're so sure, blah, blah, blah. No, you don't. And I'm just going to say this again. If there is a hemisphere, you could go out away from the center underneath it, hijack the optics within, and then reverse engineer it to claim that there's a sphere that you're standing on. Because if everything starts to slowly tip over and flip and invert, and all along the edges, you have like this kaleidoscope effect, which all happens within dome optics, then you could just say, oh, actually that somewhat symmetry, right? That curving effect, it's actually because the ground is curving. It just measures flat. It's like, okay, bro. And we see in straight lines, even though we don't. And we see infinitely far away. And there's nothing there, even though nothing can exist. But it's basically nothing. And trust me, bro. Even though gas pressure can't sit next to a vacuum. But it does. Just trust me. For gravity, the gravity that can't be explained doesn't work. And it's paradoxical. And for a vacuum that has to be filled with 96% magic, 83% dark matter, 96% dark matter and dark energy, which used to be called missing mass, just doesn't work. And that's just to hold on to relativity, which had to be used to actually use as the Band-Aid to even create the belief system that somehow we are free falling to a vacuum. And then we're going to a straight path and we're curving at the same time. Trust me, bro. This is what the preponderance of evidence is. This is so antithetical to Occam's razor, which is what people are pretending. Which one makes most sense, Austin? That it's the same in the north and the south because we're on a ball and their symmetry? It sounds good until you realize all of the assumptions, which of course Occam's razor is that which is the simplest and requires the least amount of assumptions is the most likely to be true. When you realize that this final conclusion that you conveniently omit all the prerequisites for actually require a ton of assumptions, and you start to look at the full context, very quickly you realize, wait a minute, reoccurring theme here. You're having to lie and make up nonsense that doesn't work at all and has implications that just over time become worse and worse and worse in terms of discrepancies and lack of feasibility and viability, right? Common sense and logic tells you it's because it's wrong. That's why it doesn't work. Oh, we're going to discover gravity one day. Oh, relativity is the best we have right now. Oh, modified Newtonian dynamics, dark matter, dark energy. Oh, it's like, or just the very thing, the evidence that you came up with that paradoxical nonsense to try to explain away is just what it is. And you just don't like the philosophical implications of it. But the reality, objective reality, and objective truth doesn't care what you think or what your bias is. What did the evidence show? That the Earth's not moving. The sky is moving. That light doesn't travel from point A to point B with a constant speed, and that the Earth is stationary, static, therefore in the center of everything that's moving around it. Okay, that now has domino implications, which is that the cosmos is much closer, it's much more finite, it's much more local, and it's much more dense, has some medium that's dense. Okay, to make all of these claims, you're claiming that you're seeing in perfectly straight lines infinitely. Factually, that's not the case. And that was able to limp its way all the way into the 21st century. We got super advanced robotics that had to have high levels of precision when it comes to their optics, right? Because they couldn't be off at all. So they had to be able to properly map their surroundings to have optical precision and accuracy in practical use case. And they then had to start using what? Curved visual space. And then we can just use common sense again. Okay, if we see in perfectly straight lines, then we're looking at perfectly straight lines that are parallel. We're going to see them just be perfectly straight lines because we see in perfectly straight lines. Duh. But we see the perfectly straight lines actually appear to be converging. We don't see in perfectly straight lines. Factually, we don't. Objectively, we don't. Okay, then the entire globe immediately can't be true right there. If we don't see in perfectly straight lines infinitely forever with no limit, the Earth cannot be a globe factually. So we have to make that assumption. We have to make the assumption that the sky is the position of the stars and the planets and everything in the sky isn't being affected by perspective in relation to our distance away from it, even though everything else in reality is. We have to make the special pleading, which is claiming an exception to a universally accepted principle. We have to make the special pleading claim of another assumption that perspective is not affecting the star's position at all. and that we're seeing perfectly straight lines, even though we're not. We have to make the assumption that somehow we are. We just trust me, bro. And then we have to make the assumption that they're infinitely far away. Then we have to make the assumption that there's nothing in between us and them. We're making all of these assumptions built in, right? To then claim, oh, the only way the sun can do this is because the Earth's a globe. Again, just one more time. If you're in a hemisphere, you could get further out away from the center underneath it. You would start to see things change orientation in relation to that. You could very quickly hijack that change in orientation and claim it's actually because we're on a sphere when we're within a hemisphere. I mean, dun, dun, dun. Amazing trick. Yes. Maybe you could ask the question, who knew enough about this realm to come up with a trick like that? If it's a trick, you would think someone maybe knew it. Maybe it's beyond the material world, dare I say. But the stuff I just said is just factual. And if you are a truther, you have to face the reality of those pieces of evidence. You cannot cherry pick, tactically omit everything else, right? So that's why this position, of course, I knew this position wasn't going to just disappear and dissipate if I saw a 24-hour sun, because it logically doesn't, factually.
That's a paradox on a flat Earth. How could you have two people looking the same direction, have a sun going in two opposite directions? Well, the reason is there is a shape that would call for that to happen. There's a shape that
Jeran,
says...
do you want me to submit that question to Austin? Austin, do you want to answer that question real quick before we move on to the next segment?
Well, I'm ready to move on. I want to make like a meta point, though, that I feel like everyone wants to say, since you kind of got that off. Give me like a 30-second thing, and then we'll move on, whatever. This is the issue.
I'll give you 1 minute.
Okay.
Take a minute.
I want to say this again, okay? It's like we saw something we didn't previously have access to. It requires us affirming the consequent. You don't know how it works on the globe. You reified a model. I get all that. It doesn't automatically wash out all the geometric refutations of why flat Earth is a thing in the first place. That is my point. That is my point, though. You would have to then diligently, logically, go provide sufficient.
Shout out to Adam. Thanks for the support on Ko-fi. I'll read all donations off on Ko-fi at the end of the stream. Ko-fi.com/Witsit. I'm not going to stick around for the Q&A of the debate, by the way. We're just going to finish off with the debate here.
Rebuttals to all of those geometric refutations, or it doesn't matter what you're still stuck
What
with.
happened to falsification is independent of replacement?
That's my point. That's my point.
What do you mean?
Right?
Didn't you say I have to replace those things? I thought you were saying I have to do
No,
that.
so you actually have to address the geometric refutations, not replace anything. You're asking us to replace
Wait a
the
second.
globe explanation. Wait, you're asking us to replace the globe explanation, or it must be a globe. That's what you're doing. I'm saying we falsified the globe explanation over here with like 100 things, and then you're just you have selective amnesia.
No, I
Right,
want
so
you to...
gentlemen, before I want to jump in real quick because we could go on all night, I'm sure. And some of these things you're talking about are in some of the questions that have been submitted, so you get a chance to readdress some of these things.
Okay.
So for the next segment, we'll go 30 minutes here. We'll take questions from the audience. We got quite a few questions coming in, and the questions do seem to be meaty. I think you guys are gonna.
All right, cool. We'll wrap it up. Wrap it up. That's an hour in, maybe an hour or so Q&A. Look, kind of what was happening is that the conversations were, and to be fair, I asked Sean to moderate not that long, and we were just kept going, and then Jeran would bring something up and keep going, and it was like basically points would get started and then wouldn't be finished. Right. That's basically how it went. That's all that happened, was that the points would get started and not finished. But anyway, we reviewed most of it. There's a bit of a review. I did at least get a decent amount off. It's 1:09 in the morning. And as of now, I try to get up at like 5 a.m., 5:30 and go work out. So I've got to go to sleep. So I'm going to do some housekeeping stuff. This didn't go as planned. I thought I was going to bring people on to go over like celestial theodolite and stuff, but it wasn't meant to be, because it got on late and I realized it would take way longer. So we'll have a panel of people come on in a stream coming up, and then we'll break down a lot of this. We'll break down the celestial theodolite. We'll have all the evidence. We'll break it all down. So basically my conclusion here is that fundamentally Jeran's position is fallacious. And I think he actually came to it because of logical reasons, and he kind of had some type of emotional motivation. And Nicky now has a bit of a bias. That's my honest opinion. I don't think he's lying. I don't think he was bought off. I don't think he's an agent. Whatever. We can agree to disagree. If you do believe that, I don't. If I actually believe that, obviously I would make it my sole mission to fully expose him, and he would become like an enemy. But that just simply doesn't appear to be the case in any way. I'm not going to do that. So that's how I feel. I don't agree with his position. I don't even agree with his approach, but I'm not, like I said, I'm a very loyal person. But to basically summarize what's wrong with his position is, on its face, it's affirming the consequent, right? if the Earth is a sphere, then there's a 24-hour sun. There's a 24-hour sun. Therefore, the Earth's a sphere, right? So just affirming the consequent. And he's appealing to incredulity to do so. He's saying, I can't understand how this could happen on a flat Earth, so it can't be true. He's appealing to emotion because people were attacking him, and that's not what truthers do, which spill over into a poisoning the well. Look at all these other bad things that these people do and all this other crazy stuff that they believe. Flat earthers think the whole trip was faked. That's poisoning the well, preemptively discrediting, the other person or party based on other things that they think to dismiss their argument, which, of course, our argument is the Earth measures flat. And the fact that the sun was in the sky for 24 hours doesn't change that. So you have appeals to incredulity, appeal to emotion. You have poisoning the well. You have affirming the consequent. You have a stereotype fallacy, right? A hasty generalization fallacy. You have a red herring, mini red herring. That's all kind of like sleight of hand with that approach. You have shifting the burden of proof because he's the one making the positive claim that the sun does a circle in the sky for 24 hours because it's actually very far away, that there's basically nothing between us and it. Perspective doesn't affect what we see at all, and that we're tipped over physically, geometrically, and that's changing the orientation of it, and that we're basically upside down in relation to the corresponding latitude in the north, and therefore the sun does a circle because of that. So he's making a very specific positive causal claim, like the causal mechanism. He makes the cause claim of why we see the sun. He has the burden of proof. I'm challenging or denying his assertion. And he's then shifting the burden over to me that I need to prove that's not correct. And that isn't how it works, even though we did it anyway by falsifying the globe with physical empirical measurements. So he's shifting the burden. And then, that's why I always say falsification is independent of replacement. And poetically, you see right there, he said, aren't you the one that says falsification is independent of replacement? I'm like, yeah, and that's what you're doing. You have an explanation for why the sun does that, and you're saying I need to give you a flat Earth replacement answer, or yours is true, and that's just not how it works, right? So we can falsify the globe without replacing all of its claims. Very simple. Obviously, a lot more fallacies there, but hopefully, maybe Mindshock will break this down. But I hope that you see kind of that's the trouble here, right? And then kind of like the more meta situation is just like basically what you're saying is that you got caught up and too quickly jumped into a belief, and you weren't paying attention and fully thinking everything out and testing out all the claims, and that according to you now there's like this long list of impossibilities that can only work on a globe, and the globe perfectly explains it, but that for 10 years you just totally missed them, didn't see it, and now you see it. So because of your poor discernment and lack of justification in your position for 10 years, we now should for sure trust your current claim justification built upon your current discernment. And you can see why that's obviously not going to work and not make any sense. Furthermore, the things that you're claiming it always works and always matches a globe, factually not true. And we discovered that actually comes from a position of ignorance. You don't actually know about the things that I was saying, which we have covered in depth for years now. And that's cool. This is why I hate that you kind of did not listen to my advice and be a little bit more patient. And you quickly said it because, bro, I'm in a very comfortable position right now. Like I'm just trying to figure everything out. Personal life happened, stuff happened where I just kind of stepped away. But whether I stepped away or not, I would be in the same position where I'm just being patient and trying to figure everything out. I'm going to look at the preponderance of evidence. I'm not going to quickly jump all the way back over to frantically taking any excuse I can come up with to explain away all of these evidences that are contradictory to the globe position, because now I can't make sense of this other one. I'm not going to be so incredulous that I then just start becoming very fallacious with everything and letting all of these deceptions that we've uncovered basically get lost in the wind. That would make no sense for me to do that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'm going to check Kofi real fast. And though it's supposedly been logging in for like 5 minutes now, I don't know what's going on. in a world. I'm surprised only half of people were saying that we should debate again. Adam, thank you for the support. Great debate. Looking forward to the next one. Nice. So Adam thinks we should do it again. If we do, it'll be structured. We'll have points beforehand. Thank you for the generous donation, bro. T Wayne, hey Austin, can you maybe do a stream of you versus AI? I've noticed it just gives the claims of the globe and then asks for evidence of stationary FE. Grok says it is able to change information if it Grok says it's able to change information it gives if it's proven wrong. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Sounds kind of boring. To be honest, even like kind of debate review is not my most exciting thing to do, in my opinion, but we're going to cover all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to break down the Epstein situation for what it very clearly is. It's very clearly a limited hangout being set up, which, if you don't know, is where basically if like intel agencies, it's like a CIA term, an idea actually. Basically, if there's something that's happened that they've tried to hide from the public that they can't avoid getting out, that it's inevitable that the public knows about it, found out about it, is going to figure something out. If it's inevitable that it comes out, what they do is they get out ahead of it and they release the information so that they can control what it is, right? And the public is so enamored by the new revelations and the new information that they get so caught up in the stuff that's being revealed that they are able to tactically make sure that they don't discover or ever find out the most important thing. So they're still able to hide the most damning or most important parts of the story by getting out ahead of it, creating a limited hangout and giving the public the information themselves. That's very clearly what's happening here. And I remember thinking this back in the day that it was super sketchy. Everybody was saying Epstein didn't kill himself. Do you guys remember when that happened? Everyone said it. Mainstream news, every normie in the world, it was just like an inside joke, went super viral, and everybody said Epstein didn't kill himself. That does not happen without Mockingbird approval. That was set up. What they have forced everyone to hear about and talk about Epstein right now. And when it's like, oh, look, he's being covered up. And so it's pretty obvious we're being set up for them to come out and give us some information as if, okay, fine, they ended up revealing everything and it not really be that much. But it does have some like quote unquote bombshells. The public gets so enamored by it that they just kind of, are satisfied and let everything go, and they're able to hide the most important parts. So we'll see. I'll break that down more in depth and kind of really what it is. I know that's a story that everyone's talking about, but I do think it's important. And I think because everyone's talking about it and not the right way, it's important to figure out what's going on there. So I'll probably cover that. Quite a few topics to discuss, and we will be pretty frequently discussing geocentrism and flat earth, cosmological discussion, stuff like that. Another one of the streams I expect to do this coming week is the Jewish mysticism that took over the world. And that will be relativity. And I'm going to explain how what was dismissed and forbidden as Jewish mysticism, Einstein's relativity, back in like World War II times and leading up to it, took over the world. And it didn't do that by accident. It wasn't random. It wasn't some organic theory that some guy named Einstein came up with. Not at all. Not at all. And that is the crux of the issue. You know how when it comes to history, re-examining World War II and the narrative around it and everything we were told is such a huge deal, changes everything. That is like the linchpin. Yes, it's actually worth in 2025. It's very important that you go back to the 40s and figure out what was really going on and what were we lied to about in World War II. And it changes everything. It's incredibly important. This is incredibly important in terms of cosmology and physics and how we understand the world to work and everything. It spills over into moral relativism and philosophical implications. It's actually much bigger than lies about World War II. The kinetic war, which is tragic, and the false narratives around it are a big deal. They shaped our reality the way it currently is. Nothing compared to the Jewish mysticism of relativity. Nothing compared to it. That is the big lie. And that's why I was so baffled with Jeran kind of when I mentioned, like, for you think the earth is like moving now? He says, seems to make sense. Because I'm like, well, so like where you're going is you're going to let them get away with that? And it is also sketchy that he's like avoiding it altogether. He's like, I'm not even going there yet. What do you mean yet? It's been 6 months, 7 months. You're not going there yet. You mean like the elephant in the room? Like, do you believe that we're tilted, wobbling, spinning, free falling through a vacuum? Like, what? What do you mean? So anyway, okay, so I read Kofi. I will say I'll drop a link for you guys. I know that this is going to be a very exclusive thing, but for a very limited time, I decided to try to do this. Oh, it's not available yet. Okay, that's even better, actually. So this website's completely being built. It has like a base template in there. So I'll drop the link. It's witsitgetsit.com. And I haven't even updated all the recent changes I've made to it, but I'll drop it in there. And if there's someone here that gets it, they get it. So I came up with something I'm going to do. And so there's going to be like a higher ticket, like kind of package that you can get to like support the channel, etc. And it's going to come with everything that I do for a year. So you're going to get VIP access to all the events over the next 12 months, which, by the way, I'm going to do a lot because we had to pay for a very expensive Zoom package. We're going to do all kinds of different events. We're going to have like debate events as well. And then we'll have a second Etheric Summit as well. So that'll be a little bit later on, but we're going to have events in between it. So you'll get VIP access to all the events for the year. You'll get access to everything that I do, and you'll get like in the inner circle, where you'll get all the updates before things happen. And there's going to be like an in-person meetup that's invite only. And you get an invitation to that. So you get to go to the in-person meetup, which is going to be super epic. Maybe, not sure where it'll be, but probably in Florida. Right. And many other things, and it'll all be listed there. So yeah, you get access to all of that. And like, so if you kind of how like on Ko-fi, I'm moving it all to the site. I'm going to respect the Ko-fi people though. So like, you're still going to get access, but if you like sign up for a monthly membership to help support the channel, then you're going to get access to this private community. It's going to have all the chats and the feeds and all the different stuff that we do there, and the private member streams and all that. Finally have a platform where we can do all that. We were having issues with YouTube. It was like a whole thing. But anyway, you obviously get access to the highest level of all of that for a year, and just the summits itself. And you get like a lot of the courses I'm about to release for free. Like when you add it all up, it's like an insanely good deal. That's why I'm actually, so I set it to only allow a set number of people to get it. And it's only going to go to like the end of July. But I just thought it would be cool to hook some people up with that. And then you'll get into like the inner circle group. We'll just have a small group of us, like the most legendary people. And you'll kind of get the inside scoop on things. So anyway, it's not even there yet. If you go to witsitgetsit.com and click on it, you're not going to be able to get it yet. But I will go downstairs and finish it before I go to sleep. If whoever gets it, gets it. And if you don't want it, don't get it. You don't got to complain about it. No one cares. I literally am hesitant to do it because it's like I'm giving so much away, but I think it's kind of cool. So there's that. Also, you can go to etherecsummit.com/tickets. If you go to where you get the tickets and press get tickets, there's now a cheaper ticket that gives you full VIP access to all the replays, all of that. If you did get VIP, like I promised everyone, check your emails. You're getting a free month membership to like the ever fasting community, which is going to be epic and come up with kind of course materials and all kinds of different protocols. And then we're all going to get together and do fast together and detoxes together and all this stuff, and discounts on, the various health products, whatever that you need, if you want to get them. So anyway, and then Etheric is still in the works. So I wanted to give it like a month so that the people that pay for the tickets, which wasn't a great turnout, if we're going to be honest, and like cost money. But anyway, it was epic. The actual presentations and everything are incredible. So I wanted to give them their money's worth. They bought it, they get it. They're the only ones that get it for like a month, other than the debate that people stole, I guess. But anyway, now you can get it for much cheaper. And then over the course of the next couple of days, I'm going to put all kinds of different things, right? So you can get like, go ahead and buy your ticket to the next summit and get access to that one if you didn't, all the different stuff like that, right? And I honored like the lifetimes from back in the day. I just did it the first one back. I honored it in good principle because, like, obviously, bro, you can't get mad at me because of the situation with Jeran, and there's no way I could predict that. And obviously, that was like a major hit to me, but I did it anyway. So, we're going to reset all that. People can get their kind of packages and everything. And then we'll have a branded app, blah, blah, blah. So I've been doing a lot of research and building all that myself. And we have a lot of stuff coming. So we're going to be streaming a lot. I'll be uploading actually a lot of short form content as well. We got a lot of appearances, a lot of debates. And then we're going to be doing a lot of I'm going to be like super active daily in my private community. And we're going to jump on video calls, voice channels. You'll be able to have direct access to me in like a private chat. And you'll get sneak peeks and behind the scenes and kind of help vote on major decisions of what we do next. So yeah, I'm going full in on content. We're going to see what happens. So a lot of people have been asking me to come back, and I feel like I'm supposed to. So we're going to go all in and see if we can shake things up a little bit. I got some things planned. We're going to glitch the system out. So I know I kind of say things somewhat like this and thought I was coming back a while. And it's like, you always have big ideas and blah, blah, blah. And I get all that. Don't blame you. Just watch. I'm a one-man show. You got to give a brother a break, right? Like, I'm editing it, setting up the streams, building all the websites, running the entire summit, setting it all up, covering everything that I don't even came in for. Like, it's a whole thing. So the support's greatly appreciated, man, because like everyone's saying, where'd you go? Why aren't you streaming? We miss you. It's like, well, I can't do it all by myself. And, that's just basically how it started to feel. It's just like unappreciated and all by myself. But anyway, we're going to go super hard. We got a lot of stuff coming. It's going to be dope. And by the way, I'll say this last thing, dude, I'm really passionate about this. I want you to get healthy. And also I love women. You're invited to all these things, right? That we're talking about, except for certain things that I'm going to be launching. And I will be launching like a logic and debate course and all of that. And it's not just about debating, it's just about understanding logic, which is like the glitch. And then of course, understanding how to utilize that with pathos, ethos, logos, right? For art of persuasion and stuff like that. All these things, either I could just rush them out and put out not very good things, or I'm really building them and taking times and allotting time out of each day to build these things. So I want them to be very high quality. I'm not going to announce everything right now, but anyway, I'm very passionate about I want to help younger men. So I've learned a lot of stuff. I've been through quite a bit of stuff. I've learned a lot of lessons, some of them the hard way. And I see younger men just depressed and they feel not motivated to do things and blah, blah, blah. And I want to help them. And also I want a lot of you guys to get healthy, bro. Get healthy, because I'll say this last thing. People don't realize we have no idea the implications. Lifespans are going to start getting shorter. And because the people alive right now, right, we're only how old are you? In your 20s, in your 30s, maybe in your 40s. Some of you guys are older, but it's we haven't seen the implications of the last 20 years of poisoning yet, because that's just started happening. And we're not even, and now we have children from birth growing up in that world. We have got to change our children's diets And that doesn't mean just buying stuff that says organic on it. We need to change our diets, change our children's diet. Like, I don't think people realize the actual severity of that, because they're kind of basing it on, well, everyone lives till 56. Dude, do you realize how many people are dying from heart attacks and diseases, and cancer is rampant? It's not just the jabs. Obviously, that's part of it, but it's like everything. You got to get healthy. If you're overweight, you got to lose some weight. If you need to gain some weight and want to gain some muscle mass, let's do it kind of like as a team, right? Let's like get healthy as a team. I don't know why people get so turned off by this, or that it goes in one ear and out the other. What could be more important than understanding the true etheric nature of health and like actually finding a trusted resource that is looking through in a like team of truthers, like with all these MDs that are like OG legends, like a lot of them were at the summit, that have looked through everything and done it for years in their whole life and can tell you the truth regardless of like profit and stuff, which is what everyone else is based off of. That's going to actually help you attain longevity and have energy and be healthier, right? And live longer and get rid of ailments, get rid of all these illnesses, not be in a position to worry about stuff like cancer or serious diseases, don't just sit by and be like, whatever, I'm just going to be way overweight forever. It's too late now. No, it's not. Stop. You have children, you have grandchildren, like you need to get it together. And it's way easier when you have a group of people that are there to help you and like love you, and you can hold each other accountable. I need it too, right? Like, cause there are days I wake up at 5:30, bro. I don't want to go work out. But if I know that some other legends are going to be in the group and we're supposed to meet up after we work out, I better be able to get in there and talk about how I just worked out. So I am very passionate about that. And I'm very passionate about helping inform a lot of people about a lot of this stuff so that they can help protect their children. Right. And I'm super passionate about that. So last thing I'll say is like, you can obviously see I have lots of things that I want to do. And the problem is I just like don't delegate and I try to do it all myself. I can't. So I need like a team of people that want to help, right? Like I can't build a whole thing of homeschool curriculum and a whole like home birth outline and like how to make sure how to get away from going to normal doctors, but still keeping your babies healthy, and like optimizing their diet and optimizing your diet as their parents and and like how to help people lose weight and get rid of like diabetes and all these serious ailments and how to not have to worry about taxes and different aspects that the system doesn't want you to know, and how to denounce your municipal corporation, strawman contracts. It's just a lot. So I'm building lots of things, and we're going to start putting stuff out as we go. But well, that's my vision. That's what I've been up to. So now you know. All right. I love you guys. Hope you guys enjoy the stream. I don't really like a 24-hour sun thing is not a huge deal. I can conceptualize quite a few ways that it would happen. Like, bro, the Earth's a stationary topographical plane, dude. And we live under like a vast cosmos that spins over top of us. Just what it is. So lots of important things in addition to that going on as well. All right. So support appreciated in advance. And I will catch up with you guys. Again, just to reiterate for those asking, like heavily discounted package to the summit is in the place you normally get the tickets. I'm going to create a different one that's actually on the separate site and have it all like in a library there. I just haven't got them all downloaded, ripped, edited, uploaded there. It's like a whole thing. It's a lot to do. And it requires me to be in front of a computer like at all times, which I want to be outside and like not, you know what I'm saying? So I'm trying. All right. Okay, so I'll put witsitgetsit.com in there. Like I said, it's not available yet, and there's going to be a very limited group of people. I may even like require applications, so you can't even just buy it. It's like you got to be approved. I'm definitely going to require applications for like a specific little inner circle chat. I think, if you get the like everything VIP package or whatever, obviously you'll get to apply for that. But yeah, and there's going to be a limited amount of people, maybe applications, and it's going to end in like a week or by the end of July. So that's why I'm pretty chill about that. It's like people that if you click on that link right now, you're going to see a site that's not even built, and you're not even going to be able to actually click on it to get it yet. Because I really only want like OGs there. I don't want like lame people there. I just like, when I say lame, it's just like inauthentic or entitled, and stuff like that. It's like, look, dude, if you don't actually just like really want to support the channel and want to encourage it to exist and keep going, it's just don't even worry about that, bro. That one's not for you. You know what I'm saying? All right. So I love you guys. Seek and speak truth unequivocally. The weak find contentment in the consensus of ignorance. So who cares what other people think? They're always going to attack you. The truth is rarely popular, and what's popular is rarely true. I will probably stream tomorrow. I think I'm going to be streaming a lot. When I say probably, it's because that's Saturday. It's rest day. If I'm going to be streaming super frequently, is that every weekday? And then I also do weekends? I don't want to literally do 7 days a week. I'm probably not going to do that. I'll probably do like the members only, like kind of more private stuff on the weekends, and then like any appearances or like interviews or podcasts or debates, and maybe I'll just do the weekly streams on the channel. I think that's where I'm landing right now. So I don't know if I'll stream on here tomorrow or not, because since I'm just now coming back, maybe I will. So just stay tuned. No promises. I may work on a lot of the other stuff. And if you're if you sign up and become a member, then you can jump in that community. And then I'm gonna update everyone that's on Ko-fi. I'm gonna give you guys updates and try to integrate you guys in as well. And I do think we're gonna try to use that Discord. I need some people that I can trust to be moderators and admins there to help run the Discord. And I just know you have to be a little bit censored there. But I think we are going to try to use it because it has the advantage of voice channel and stuff, and Telegram doesn't really work as well as that. As for that, okay, that's a lot. That was a lot of house cleaning. Now you guys know the full update. Cool. And I was going to say this, dude, new returned Witsit, bro. Don't care about the drama. Don't care what anyone's saying about me. I don't care about any of that. I don't care. I'm going through a lot. I've been going through a lot. I'm just trying to survive over here. If you guys even knew, it's like incredible that I've made it to this point in many ways. I'm so far past it. I don't care about anything like that. So this place is for people that are really trying to figure out the truth, really trying to stand up for children, really trying to dig through like the world of lies, become the best version of themselves, help other people do that, help make a positive impact on the world. Everything else is for the birds. Don't care about anything else. So, all right. I love you guys. I will see you soon, and peace.
That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Rappers acting say they high, say they sipping pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up, had to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in the field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Took the way you saw the world, then distorted it. Now you think you wanna rock that twirl somewhere orbiting. Theories disproportionate, the truth distorted quick with a forceful grip. They force a simple that we absorbing quick. Took the people's signature that mean extorted it. They forging it if news anchors informant to informing them. There's a surplus, but they tell us there are shortages. Credit economy mortgages, dollar that's supported with empty fortresses. But what's important is this: we courting ships, important gifts. Of course it is what extortion is in accordance with an assortment list of foreign tricks. We ignoring which informing this, informing this. It looked like we were snoring tricked. Pedophilia and the government endorsing it. Yeah, eugenics is exactly what suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up just to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in a field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real?